Just because she's the Empire's most useless princess. She gets thrown off to the frozen wasteland for a political marriage. Even her fiancé is a complete mystery. The second the veil flies off, her eyes widen in shock. Drop-dead gorgeous guy with silver hair and green eyes. Even better, he's so innocent it makes her weak in the knees. On the icy snow-covered mountains, cold wind whips up snowflakes. The carriage jolts through snow pits like a boat on rough waters. Yuna wraps her fox fur tight, but still shivers with chattering teeth. Oscar across from her hugs himself, shivering. This cursed place will freeze our bones. Yuna smiles to comfort him. It's just a regular snowy day. But Oscar remains unhappy. They actually threw you to this hellhole, just because no one proposed. To you, this is way too much, and everyone in the Empire knows you're useless. You're no threat to them at all. Yuna is speechless. Is he mocking me? Angelina snaps at Oscar, saying he insisted on coming and is just causing trouble. Oscar immediately retorts, "You were crying and complaining, from the cold last night too." Yuna quickly laughs to smooth things over. Just as she finishes speaking, cold wind suddenly rushes down her neck, making her shudder. She stares at the swirling snow outside the window, wondering to herself, how did I end up in a place like this? Just a month ago, she was still in a warm castle, happily painting, chatting and laughing with people around her. How happy she was, until she was notified that she would marry the only son of Bitburg's ruler. And he didn't even send a portrait, only sent a cold marriage contract. She knew the marriage was unavoidable, but was angry at how carelessly she was informed. She felt like an object being casually disposed of. Angelina's voice drifts through the wind and snow. "Hekshin, did you break it off cleanly?" Yuna answers casually. "That ended long ago, though that guy's abs were really nice to look at, and he was handsome." Then Yuna rests her chin on her hand, lost in thought. Breaking up with Hekshin was for the best. She had planned to break up anyway, but didn't expect to be the one kicked out first. She had thought about having him make a scene to stop the marriage, but lost her nerve thinking about her brother. She never imagined she'd actually have to get married. Suddenly, the carriage window is knocked. Outside, Ludek's voice trembles urgently. "Something happened! The golden carriage is smashed to pieces!" Yuna is stunned speechless seeing the carriage. How did it end up in such a horrible state? Ludek explains that the path was too treacherous. The carriage crashed into rocks and broke. Hearing this, Yuna complains. "Why did my sister insist on sending this troublesome carriage?" She suggests just abandoning the carriage. Traveling light would be so much better. Oscar immediately objects. "Without a carriage, we'd have no dignity," Angelina suddenly exclaims, her voice sharp. "Oh my god! Princess, look quickly!" Yuna asks nervously. "What's wrong? Are there assassins?" Angelina points at the carriage, eyes sparkling. "It's pure gold! An entire golden carriage!" Yuna's mouth twitches. "You're missing the point, aren't you?" Hearing this, Oscar asks with his mouth agape, "Is it really pure gold?" Yuna looks at these two money-obsessed people, feeling utterly helpless. Suddenly, she glances into the distance, her heart tightens. "There seem to be figures moving this way," Yuna calls to Ludek. "Are those people coming toward us?" Ludek tells her to get in the carriage first, saying he'll go confirm the situation. Yuna feels anxious. They don't look like assassins. Could they be kidnappers? Planning to capture me for ransom? But Angelina suddenly says, "At least they have some conscience, coming out to greet the princess." Yuna looks confused, until Angelina points ahead. "The one you're marrying must be at the front of that group, right?" As the person gets closer, Yuna's breath catches. This person's skin is translucent like cold jade, silver hair wrapped in scattered snow, emerald green eyes like precious gems. "Oh my god, he's way too handsome." Yuna suddenly hears her own deafening heartbeat. This man looks like he walked out of a myth. "I'm falling in love." The attendants see this scene and feel helpless. Oh no, the princess's beauty-obsessed tendency is acting up again. While switching to the carriage they prepared, Yuna keeps muttering, "I really should talk to him face to face." She's about to peek out the window when Angelina quickly pulls her back. "Calm down, princess. Even if it's love at first sight, you need to be reserved on your first meeting," Yuna protests. She just wants to talk to her future handsome husband. He not only arranged for us to be in a warm carriage, but also helped move our things, and came out in the snow to meet his bride-to-be. He must like me too. She mumbles that she originally wanted to wait until everything was settled before talking, but all he said was one sentence. "It's cold outside, please go inside first." Is this reasonable? She complains. Then she changes tone, can't help but praise. But his quiet demeanor is super attractive too. "Isn't he curious about me at all? I'm so beautiful." Angelina suddenly mentions Hekshin, reminding her that last time was also love at first sight. Yuna rushes to argue. "This time is different. He's my fiancé." Angelina and Oscar exchange glances, speechless. How is she always so naive? Angelina presses. "Did he confess to you?" Yuna instantly freezes up. She immediately turns to Oscar. "Am I ugly? I should be beautiful enough for love at first sight." Oscar quickly agrees. "Princess, you're of course the most beautiful in the world. Everyone loves you." Yuna nods in agreement, until Oscar adds quietly, "To us, at least." Just as she's about to press further, the carriage door is suddenly knocked. It's Schneidel's voice asking softly, "Have you encountered any problems?" Yuna suddenly pushes the door open. She stares straight at Schneidel. "Let's talk." Schneidel freezes in place. Yuna invites him. "We haven't properly introduced ourselves yet. Come in and chat for a bit." Schneidel apologizes and explains, "Outsiders visiting Bitburg must first greet the ruler." Yuna is confused. "But didn't you come to meet me?" Schneidel patiently answers. stairs. Charmin's carriages have difficulty crossing the winter mountains. It's very dangerous, so they had to come out to meet her. While he's speaking, someone calls for Schneidel to lead the way at the front. He has no choice but to say he needs to go. Yuna quickly grabs him and asks, "You just said the winter mountains are very dangerous, so why did you personally come to meet me?" Hearing this, Schneidel gently takes her hand and says seriously, "A warrior of Bitburg who can't protect their companion isn't worthy of being a warrior. Although we're still far from being officially married. Protecting you is what I should do." After Schneidel leaves, Yuna still stands by the window in a daze. Snapping back, she immediately turns to her attendants and shouts, "See, it's not one-sided love." Angelina feels helpless. "I think you misunderstood." Then Yuna puzzles over what he meant by still far from being officially married. Shortly after the carriage moves, the window is knocked again. Ludek says, "Princess, we've arrived. This is Bitburg." Yuna lifts the curtain and looks, instantly freezing. Why is everyone greeting her with cold stares? She's extremely nervous. The atmosphere is so scary. Did I do something wrong? Oscar sighs. It seems the princess's bad reputation has reached here. Yuna gets more nervous. Bad reputation? What did I do? Oscar explains seriously. Of course it's your shocking romantic history. The carriage instantly falls silent. The next second, Yuna is chasing Oscar with the golden wheel, hitting him. Ludek reminds from outside, "Princess, it's about time to get off the carriage." So Yuna elegantly gets off. Schneidel is already waiting nearby, saying softly, "This way, please." Following Schneidel inside, Yuna can't help but mutter, "Bitburg people are so tall." Looking at the towering ceilings and spacious corridors, she gets more nervous. Ahead, Schneidel announces loudly, "Diraz, the stranger has arrived." Then a tall figure appears before her. Yuna's heart skips a beat. "Is this my future father-in-law?" Granyov scans the group and asks, "So few people?" Schneidel says yes. Yuna mutters to herself, "Of course, because nobody wanted to come here." Granyov doesn't say more, just tells them to leave. Yuna freezes in place. Angelina quickly pulls her. "Princess, let's withdraw first." But Yuna stands firm. She lifts her skirt, voice clear. "Greetings! It's our first meeting. I am Carola Incana Charmin, 4th Princess of Charmin. Charmin etiquette requires introducing oneself first upon meeting. I don't wish to shame my homeland, I hope you understand." Granyov stares at her silently, eyes sharp. Schneidel thinks in shock. She dares to speak to the ruler like this. He considers finding an excuse to send her back to her room to avoid conflict. However, Granyov speaks, introducing himself as descendant of Tedragu. "Granyov," Yuna asks softly, "although I'm only your future daughter-in-law, may I call you father?" Granyov coldly refuses. "You haven't officially entered the Tedragu household yet," Yuna complains internally. "I traveled all this way here. How can he treat me like this? Arranged the engagement without asking my opinion, and now treats me coldly. So frustrating." She sneaks a glance at Schneidel, but is captivated again by his stunning beauty. The unpleasantness instantly vanishes. "Oh well, who told my fiancé to be so handsome?" So she immediately changes her tone. "I understand what you mean." Just as she finishes, a subordinate quickly steps forward, saying he'll take her to her quarters. So Yuna turns and follows. Schneidel wants to follow, but is stopped by Granyov, who tells him to stay. He has no choice but to comply. Arriving at the room, the attendant says he'll call the person in charge, and then withdraws. Angelina immediately praises Yuna. "Seeing you respond so confidently, I'm moved to tears." Oscar agrees, but Yuna suddenly becomes upset, voice tearful. "I'm done for. What do I do now?" Angelina and Oscar are both stunned. "What?" Yuna tears up anxiously. "I got hated on my very first day." Ludek quickly comforts her. "You didn't say anything wrong." Oscar chimes in. "The ruler can't mistreat a princess." Angelina also nods in agreement. "That's right, you only said what needed to be said." Yuna's mood remains gloomy, but I got separated from him on just the first day. Angelina persuades. "Seeing your confident demeanor, he'll fall in love with you instead." After getting affirmation, Yuna immediately perks up. "Really? Was I cool just now?" Then she clears her throat. "This is also one of my charms." Watching Yuna's mood change, the attendants marvel at how quickly she switches. She immediately worries again. "Do I have to stay in this room from now on? It's too cramped. And why did they choose this color for the bedding?" Oscar adds. "And there isn't even a servant's room." Yuna also worries. The attendants traveled all this way, and now they don't even have a place to rest. Just as she's speaking, a knock suddenly sounds. Yuna asks, "Who is it?" A gentle female voice from outside says she's here to visit Princess Charmin. After the door opens, the woman bows. "Princess Charmin, greetings." Yuna looks up, eyes instantly widening. "Oh my god, she's way too beautiful." Although they just said they send an attendant, she didn't expect such a breathtakingly gorgeous woman. Yuna stares at Tiffany, exclaiming internally, "Wow, Bitburg people are either imposing or absolutely stunning." Tiffany in front of her smiles gently. "Is there any problem?" Yuna suddenly snaps back. "Your name is Tiffany, right?" She nods in response and suggests showing her around the palace. But Schneidel suddenly walks over and interjects. "I'll show the way." Then he asks for Yuna's opinion. Yuna immediately agrees. So Schneidel dismisses Tiffany. Watching Tiffany leave, Yuna thinks, she really doesn't seem like a servant. The two walk side by side. Yuna turns and asks Schneidel what she should call him. He says heir. Yuna is confused. Heir is a title, right? What does it mean? Schneidel answers. It means the ruler's successor. Hearing this, Yuna thinks, isn't that like a crown prince? So she says directly, "I still want to call you by your name. After all, we're partners." But Schneidel hesitates. "No one here calls me by my name. name, but he finally relents and lets her call him Schneidel. Yuna immediately smiles brightly. Okay, Schneidel, let's properly greet each other. She extends her hand, announcing her identity. I'm Yuna, your future fiancé. Schneidel hesitantly takes it, shyly saying, he's a descendant of Tedragu, Schneidel. Yuna holds his hand, secretly delighted. Finally got to hold it. She absolutely won't let go. Schneidel's cheeks turn slightly red. My hand is being held. Yuna's voice comes from beside him. Can you show me around? Then she pulls out the marriage contract, asking, this isn't fake, right? Schneidel looks at the marriage contract silently for a moment, saying this is an official marriage contract. Yuna sighs in relief. That's good. I saw everyone doesn't like me. I was afraid it was fake. Hearing this, Schneidel thinks, their attitude really isn't good. Ironically, he can't change anything. Schneidel is about to ask if she has anything else to ask, when he sees her organizing the papers with one hand, completely stunned. He reminds her softly, it's easier if you let go, but Yuna grips tighter. So he continues, you can hold my hand again after organizing. After organizing, Yuna says seriously, if I make you uncomfortable, anywhere, tell me anytime. Schneidel's ears burn. You don't need to do this, we're already engaged anyway. Hearing this, Yuna immediately interlocks fingers with him. But we only just met today, then kisses the back of his hand. And I fell in love with you at first sight, so I'll work hard to make you love me. Schneidel instantly freezes, face turning bright red. A few days later, Yuna lies on the table complaining. I confessed like that. How can Schneidel just abandon me? She turns to complain to Angelina. You know what response he gave to my confession? Just 4 words. I see. After speaking, Yuna pouts and lies down again. I really have no way to deal with him, Angelina comforts. But this counts as friendly. Other people look at us like we scammed their money. Yuna is also confused. Since the marriage contract is real, why does everyone hate me so much? And later, Schneidel went out hunting and hasn't returned for 3 whole days. Suddenly a knock sounds. A gentle voice from outside. Princess, is it convenient to visit now? Yuna opens the door and shouts in delight. Tiffany, it's you! Tiffany smiles gently. Have you been well recently? I was worried seeing you locked in your room. Then Yuna complains. You said you'd help me adapt. Why didn't you come see me even once? Tiffany explains. Because the heir didn't seem to like me coming. Yuna nods and asks. Tiffany, you're not really my servant, right? If not a servant, what do you do in the palace? Are you a noble? Tiffany answers. I belong to the temple, also known as Latin, she patiently explains. Bitburg has diras, which means the ruler, and Latin are those who serve the diras. There are also other guardians called glass, which means warriors. Yuna mutters softly. Why do I feel like I'm in a culture class? Tiffany smiles. You'll get used to it after a few times. I'll come help explain the culture every day. Yuna is instantly happy. Really? That's wonderful. She grabs Tiffany's hand. But let's start studying tomorrow. Today, let's go out and have fun first. Meanwhile, the hunting team at the foot of the snowy mountain is packing up their prey. Rom sighs. Finally going home. This hunt was so long, Tugel beside him says fortunately. But at least we achieved our goal. Then Ulan rides over and asks loudly. So who do we have to thank for all this? Everyone in unison. Thanks to the heir for finding the medicine. Then Rom looks at Schneidel. Speaking of which, the heir must want to hurry back, right? I heard on your first meeting that Princess confessed to you? Schneidel responds coldly. What does that matter? I knew already sent word. The temple has sent Tiffany to her side. Tugel speculates. I think the temple would send their most capable person, right? Schneidel continues. Yes, to use her abilities, to make her leave here faster than anyone. The warriors look at his back and tacitly fall silent. Schneidel thinks. From the first moment I saw her, I felt she was a mysterious person. Knowing her confidence comes from her ignorance, yet feeling maybe she really can do it. She has flowing hair like the sun, and shows a warm smile like spring. But how can she have eyes as cold as winter? Schneidel grips the reins tightly, thinking. At this point, there's no use thinking about this. The temple has already made its decision, and the Diraz will absolutely not go against this decision. Schneidel shields the sunlight with his hand, so any feelings I develop for her will be meaningless. This engagement will break sooner or later anyway. There's no point caring. Meanwhile, Yuna and Tiffany are walking. After learning everything, Tiffany asks in surprise. So when you came, you didn't even know your marriage partner's name or appearance? Yuna smiles and nods. Yeah, pretty much. Tiffany sighs. That's really a forced and one-sided approach. Yuna agrees. Aren't royal marriages all like this? But Tiffany worries. But you'll surely suffer. This isn't the life you chose. She grips her own hand and adds. Being forced to walk a path arranged by others, you'll eventually resent them. Yuna answers with a smile. It might seem that way from an outsider's perspective, but I lived too carefree before. Now resenting anyone doesn't seem quite right. Yuna suddenly looks around. Everywhere here feels so desolate. Tiffany apologizes. It's different from Charmin. It might seem shabby to you. Yuna immediately denies. Not at all. I actually think this is the charm of this place. Then she suddenly stops. Speaking of which, where is this? The atmosphere is so bleak. Yuna guesses. Could this be a cemetery? Tiffany explains. This is a garden, just no one takes care of it anymore. The person who built the garden couldn't conquer this cold land. Perhaps this land rejected that person's warmth. Yuna thinks confused. I've been here several days. Forget flowers, I haven't even seen leaves. Even if it's cold, it shouldn't be this desolate. Then Tiffany suddenly speaks. Princess, you're truly a warm and beautiful person. That's why I feel even more that you don't belong in this country. Yuna freezes. Tiffany? Not understanding her sudden shift, Tiffany continues to persuade her. You should go to a more suitable place and receive abundant love. Bitburg people are closed off and suspicious. They don't like outsiders. And everyone's hostility toward you is simply because you're an outsider. Tiffany then suggests, you can use their rudeness as an excuse to cancel the marriage. Your reputation won't be damaged. Yuna is deeply affected after hearing this. After collecting herself, she responds, I don't deny I'm beautiful, but I need to correct a mistake, she says seriously. I'm not warm. I'm just working hard to gain warmth for myself. Although being treated this way makes me sad, it's not enough to make me feel defeated, she continues. Since they don't like outsiders to begin with, kind me will be understanding. Tiffany responds softly, Princess, I really like you. I hope you can always stay as you are now. How can people change so easily? I'll probably be like this my whole life. Yuna answers with a smile. But thank you for worrying about me. Tiffany worries again. But the barrenness and coldness here will make things hard for you. You don't know how this country will treat unwelcome people. But Yuna remains firm. But after coming here, I fell in love with Schneidel at first sight, she says proudly. I even swore to him that I'd make him love me. They say true love can withstand trials, don't they? Hearing this, Tiffany clearly shows a surprised expression. She feels helpless. How can someone be so stubborn? But precisely because of this warm and charming princess shouldn't be here. So Tiffany slowly speaks. Princess, the strongest warrior's companion must also be strong. She must possess a powerful body, keen intelligence, and an upright heart. Only then is she worthy of this position, and the temple believes outsiders don't have these qualities. If one forcibly takes this position, it will anger the gods. And I'm the chief priestess, serving all gods. I will judge whether you're qualified. So please demonstrate whether you have the qualifications to enter the Tedragu household. Meanwhile, Gragnov stares at Ludek, questioning. You say everyone's attitude is unreasonable? Ludek answers nervously. Yes, I want to know if the ruler allows this, or if it's the servant's personal behavior. Gragnov turns to ask Schneidel. Heir, do you also think there's a problem here? Schneidel answers, no. Reportedly, we've already provided the best treatment. Ludek wants to continue, but is interrupted by Gragnov. Go back and tell your master. The supplies sent have been confirmed, but they're less than half of what was agreed. So the engagement will be decided according to our wishes. After Ludek leaves, Schneidel suggests, why not tell the princess about this directly? Gragnov questions back. What should I tell her? That her own brother sent less than the agreed dowry? And even if she brought twice the dowry amount, the temple still won't approve the marriage. Schneidel falls silent, thinking, yes, the temple has never approved marriages with outsiders. And Tiffany will definitely make the princess give up and leave in the end. I can't change anything either, he ponders. The Diraz agreed to the engagement probably because Bitburg lacks resources. As Schneidel leaves the hall, he happens to encounter the waiting Ludek. Ludek steps forward. I have something to ask you. Schneidel's subordinate Ainu suddenly blocks the way, trying to stop Ludek. Schneidel speaks. Ainu, step back. Don't block him, he says to Ludek. Before leaving this corridor, I can answer your questions. Ludek immediately thanks him. In the corridor, Ludek asks, the first prince sent supplies. So is this marriage just a transaction? Schneidel answers, you were the ones who proposed the engagement first. You also set the dowry amount. We only responded. Then he asks, was your princess driven away by Charmin? Ludek mutters to himself. I only suspected before, but now it seems it's really true. Schneidel says puzzled. She doesn't seem like someone who would be driven away. Ludek hurriedly denies. Of course not. Rather, it's because too many people liked her. That's where the problem lies. After Ludek leaves, Ainu steps forward. Heir, you just finished hunting. You should rest first. Before finishing, Schneidel interrupts. Ainu, when Tiffany revealed her true purpose, what was the princess's reaction? Ainu recalls. The princess said since they've met, she asked her not to be too harsh. Schneidel chuckles softly. As expected, she's truly someone who can make everyone like her. In the room, Ludek shouts excitedly. This engagement doesn't need to be fulfilled at all. We were all deceived by the first prince. Yuna is confused. What are you even talking about? She turns to Oscar. Oscar, Ludek keeps talking nonsense. Talk some sense into him. Yuna feels helpless. Forget it. I rarely want to study properly, and you're just hindering me. Angelina is about to speak to Yuna. Yuna turns and bumps into someone. Schneidel catches her, asking softly, are you alright? Yuna freezes, thinking, oh no? How is he here? Did he hear everything I said? Schneidel looks at her flustered appearance, thinking, face red like a strawberry. So cute. Then Yuna changes the subject. I heard you sleep for a whole day after hunting. I thought I wouldn't see you today. Schneidel answers softly. I just wanted to see how you're doing here, Yuna says with a smile. It wasn't great at first, but thanks to Tiffany's help, it's much better now. Schneidel is puzzled. But don't you already know that Tiffany is here to evaluate you? Yuna holds up her book. Yes, but she's also helping me adapt here. Thanks to her, I can borrow books from the library, she adds. And I also know why you left me to go hunting for so long. Then Schneidel asks, what book did you choose? Yuna answers somewhat embarrassed. Because I'm not familiar with this place. The first book I picked had light content. She hides the book behind her back. Oscar quietly complains from the side. More accurately, it only has pictures. Yuna quickly covers Oscar's mouth. Oscar, don't talk nonsense! Schneidel watches this scene and can't help but laugh. Then he asks, can I help you pick some suitable books to read? Though it's not enough to apologize for our poor hospitality. Yuna's eyes light up. Oh my god, does that mean you're asking me on a library date right now? Hearing this, Oscar and Angelina quietly complain on the side. It's definitely not what she thinks. The library. Is it only this big? Yuna looks at the library confused. They forbade me from entering. Before, I thought this library contained something incredible. This tiny space, there's no way to quietly have sweet private time together, Schneidel says. Because the history here isn't that long, there aren't many related books. He adds, you don't really need to know about these things anyway. Yuna blinks. But even so, I'm still very curious. So please tell me about it. Since I'll be living here from now on, I want to know everything about this place. Then Yuna smiles and pokes him. Of course, I want to know even more about you. Schneidel takes out a map. The homeland of Bitburg people is on the northern plains of Edessa. We used to be nomads. He points to a mark on the map. This is the Glantunia Mountains, the northern side of the Winter Mountains. Yuna is puzzled. But how could people who always lived on plains move to the mountains? Schneidel's tone darkens. Because of the Edison Conquest War, we were driven out. We searched for a foothold in the mountains this way, and the kingdom of Bitburg slowly formed. Schneidel continues. To ensure everyone has food, the ruler hunts regularly. Yuna asks quietly, is this why everyone calls me a stranger? Schneidel nods slightly. Although the war ended, everything related to strangers afterward turned out badly. In the temple, this is called the sign of the Winter Mountains, like the gods reminding us that strangers might be dangerous, Yuna says worriedly. But this could also be self-isolation. If this determination to keep out strangers ends up causing everyone to starve, what then? Schneidel responds gently. What you're saying is just hypothetical. Compared to this hypothetical, our determination to hold firm actually supports everyone's survival here. Hearing this, Yuna's eyes suddenly widen, showing a surprised expression, but she quickly recovers. Thank you for telling me so much, but why don't you tell me about your story? Schneidel lowers his head, saying faintly, because I don't have anything worth talking about. Yuna presses. Is that really the case? Or do you not want to tell me? She quickly waves her hands. Am I being too hasty? I can wait, she continues sincerely. If you're curious about me, I can tell you anything. Is there anything you want to know? Schneidel is silent for a few seconds. There's something I want to ask you. Hearing this, Yuna's heart brightens. I somehow feel we've gotten closer. Schneidel hesitates, asking softly, why were you driven out from Charman? Hearing this, Yuna instantly falls silent. Seeing this, Schneidel quickly says, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But then Yuna suddenly looks up. What do I do? I just fell in love with you again. Schneidel is dumbfounded, thinking, where did that conclusion come from? Yuna laughs softly. The reason I was driven out is simple, because I'm the easiest to bully, she says honestly. Even I think that my brother and sisters choosing me as the first sacrifice couldn't be more appropriate, because I have the smallest chance of ascending to the throne. Even if not here, I would have been sent elsewhere. Rather than being sent away, it's more accurate to say I escaped, Yuna says with a smile. I fled here to survive. She continues to add, without this marriage, my sister might have dealt with me. My brother probably sent me here out of consideration for me, right? Then she thinks, my brother must have guessed I'd fall for Schneidel. That's why he did this. She walks over smiling. Looking at it this way, we both came here to survive. Hearing this, Schneidel thinks, although at first I felt she didn't play by normal rules, how can she think this way? Then Yuna finds an angle and asks Schneidel, are you busy now? Can you be my model? Schneidel is completely stunned. Model? What do you mean? Yuna says while looking for angles with a smile. After thinking it over, my first work painted in Bitburg. I still want to paint you. Meanwhile, Tiffany looks at Ludek, asking softly, you said the princess went out with the heir? Ludek answers, yes, I'll tell the princess you came. Tiffany shakes her head. Don't trouble yourself. I'll come again tomorrow. Then Yuna's voice suddenly comes. Tiffany! Yuna runs over nervously. We're not having a test now, are we? Tiffany explains gently. You seem to have a misunderstanding. The test format isn't what you're thinking, Yuna says embarrassed. Actually, I thought you wouldn't come back, she says quietly. Didn't you declare war on me before? Tiffany nods. I did declare war on you, but she changes tone. But I think I should fulfill what I promised you. Back in the room, Yuna thinks. Royal marriages require temple approval, meaning religious authority is stronger than royal authority. According to what Tiffany said before, the temple won't easily approve this marriage, right? So she asks, is it okay for you to help me so directly? Tiffany smiles softly. Only by being with you can I discover your flaws. Yuna feels helpless. Really? Your tone is so gentle I can't get angry, Tiffany says softly. Actually, I also came because you're an interesting person. Hearing this, Yuna sighs. Even you can immediately tell I'm interesting. Why can't he notice? Tiffany says softly. I actually hope the heir never notices. Yuna protests. Can you stop always saying harsh things in a gentle tone? Tiffany continues. But if the heir is with you, you won't have time to be with me. Yuna quickly retorts. What are you saying? These are two completely different things. She answers seriously. For beautiful women, I always have time. Tiffany turns her head, secretly suppressing laughter, thinking she's too cute. Yuna is confused. Tiffany, what's wrong? Tiffany quickly holds back her laugh. Nothing. Then she clears her throat. So, do you have time now? I want to tell you about previous test questions. Yuna catches on. You came deliberately to interfere with my studying and make me fail, right? Hearing this, Tiffany is amused by her again. Yuna asks nervously. There was a test question before. Does Schneidel have other fiancés? Tiffany answers. That's not it. She explains. That woman came to Bitburg a long time ago, way before her. Then her tone grows heavier. I'm telling you about the past test questions, because I hope you'll give up on the marriage and leave Bitburg on your own. Yuna says helplessly. You're bringing this up again, she says firmly. Didn't I tell you? I won't get hurt easily. Tiffany interrupts her. That's because you haven't faced the people of Bitburg head-on yet. Hearing this, Yuna freezes and stops talking. Tiffany continues persuading. Once you experience their hostility, you'll change your mind. After speaking, Tiffany thinks to herself, I've said this much. She should understand now. But Yuna suddenly speaks up. But you didn't do that. Tiffany instantly confused. Yuna continues with a smile. Tiffany, you don't have any hostility toward me, do you? Tiffany falls silent immediately after a while. She says helplessly, I just felt everyone already has hostility toward you, so there's no need for me to join in. Yuna nods. So that's how it is. Tiffany's thoughts become chaotic. I thought I had figured out what she was thinking. Did I overestimate myself? Then Yuna slams the table. Fine. Then let me experience it. Her gaze is determined. Just how much hostility everyone has toward me. Seeing this, Tiffany suddenly recalls the temple's words. Her heart tightens. She remembers the temple people saying, Tiffany, this is your chance to prove you're capable of becoming the next high priestess. Since the gods have summoned you, you must not disappoint them, the temple people told her. She surely knows what this position represents. It's the one absolute position that serves the highest level gods and bears the supreme glory. If she breaks the foreigner's curse, she can succeed as the new high priestess. It's not until Yuna calls out to her that she snaps back to reality. Yuna asks worriedly, Are you okay? You suddenly went silent. I'm a bit scared. Tiffany steadies herself and says, Since you want to experience everyone's hostility, then I'll introduce you to Schneidel's 5 warriors. Because in Bitburg, they have more hostility toward you than any other glass. The monarch Diraz kept his 5 most trusted warriors by his side. These 5 warriors have followed Diraz through life and death since he was still the heir. They never betray the monarch, stay by his side at all times, and are the glass who protect the monarch. At the training grounds Ainu just returned, Rom teases, Oh, you're finally back. Just one hunt without us and you've become this lazy? Ainu sits down and responds, The heir just went to bed. Radak frowns and asks, Is it because he talked with the princess's knight for too long? Ainu shakes his head. No, the conversation with him ended quickly. Ulan presses, then the heir. Ainu pauses and says the heir went to visit his fiancé. Hearing this, Ulan is shocked. You said the heir went to visit who? You didn't see Rom, did you? Rom also gets anxious. You know this hunt took longer than planned, right? The heir needs rest, Ainu says in a low voice. I'm the guardian warrior behind him. I have no right to stop him. Hearing this, Radak thinks, After hunting, the heir has never delayed his rest. Because the heir's stamina is different from other glass, he must rest fully after hunting. For him, this isn't a choice, it's a necessity. And starting tomorrow, he has to live according to his original schedule, so he should sleep enough today. But going to sleep now means half as much rest as usual. So he can't help asking, why did the heir suddenly go see his fiancé? Ainu answers, well, the heir went to the library with her and even helped her choose books. Radak wonders, does the heir like her that much? Ainu answers, I don't know about that, though I didn't hear it from the heir himself. But the princess has indeed fallen in love with the heir. At this moment, Yuna and Tiffany walk toward them. Radak speaks first. The training grounds aren't for just anyone to enter. Even if the priestess can. Then he glares at Yuna. Foreigners absolutely cannot. Tiffany steps forward and puts her arm around Yuna. But the heir's fiancé can, right? Because everyone hasn't greeted her yet. I brought her over. Yuna looks at the warriors before her and thinks, although I heard Bitburg people are tall, but standing in front of them, these aren't people, they're practically bears. Yuna stares at their clothes and asks, won't those burst open? She points at Ulan's buttons. The buttons on your clothes look like they're about to fall off. The scene immediately becomes super awkward. Yuna hastily explains, this is a compliment. I'm absolutely not flirting with you. Tiffany watches Yuna's flustered appearance and can't help laughing. At this moment, Ulan frowns and breaks the silence. So, are you done looking around? Yuna quickly says, Tiffany said it too. I came to get to know everyone. I heard you're the warriors, closest to Schneidel, so we'll be seeing each other often. Ulan immediately retorts, who gave you permission to call the heir by his name? Yuna thinks, indeed his name has special meaning. Though it's just an unspoken agreement, it still bothers people. So she puts her hands on her hips and responds, who else could have given permission? Schneidel himself, of course. She says seriously, no matter what, I wouldn't just call someone by their name without their permission. Yuna looks at Tiffany and asks, I do understand this basic etiquette, right? Tiffany immediately agrees. Radak says coldly, would someone who understands etiquette be so disrespectful to the priestess? Do you know who she is? Yuna says frankly, isn't she the person the temple sent to drive me away? But she's also the only friend here who takes care of me. Ulan freezes friend? What is this? Radak interrupts him. Ulan, stay out of it. Then he takes a step closer to Yuna and says coldly, my name is Radak. He points to the people beside him. He's Ulan, he's Ainu. Then points to the other two. Next to them are Rom and Tugel. Yuna nods with a smile. I see. My name is... Before she finishes, Radak cuts her off directly. We don't care what your name is, and there's no need to know. He issues an order to leave directly. If you understand, please go back. At these words, everyone freezes. No one expected him to be this direct. Tiffany watches from the side, both worried Yuna will be upset and hoping she'll back down. But Yuna puffs out her chest and retorts, but I don't want to! Radak asks in great surprise. What did you say? Yuna responds confidently. I'm your lord's fiancé. My status is above yours. Radak is clearly shocked by this. His lips move but no words come out. Yuna adds, but I'm being polite to you because I'm not familiar with you. Radak's face darkens as he asks, so now you want us to be respectful to you? Yuna hastily denies. What are you saying? That's not what I mean. I want to be closer to you. Yuna says seriously. Oh my, you have a face that looks like you'd never hold a grudge. How can you be so petty? At these words, Rom and Tugel can't hold back, trying hard not to laugh on the side. Yuna walks straight past Radak and continues, now I know all your names. She points to the seats and suggests, next, let's sit down and have a good chat. Yuna turns and asks Tiffany, "You want to sit down too, right?" Tiffany nods with a smile. "Yes, of course." Radak's face turns pale with anger, while the other 4 warriors can't hold back their laughter and burst out laughing. After learning about some of Schneidel's achievements, Yuna exclaims repeatedly in amazement. Hearing this, Ram immediately chimes in, "Of course. If you saw it, you'd definitely be amazed," he says excitedly. Actually, the heir isn't like he appears. His strength is particularly great. Tugel also echoes along, but is interrupted by Radak, who continues glaring at Ram and says, "Ram, that's enough, isn't it?" Yuna immediately looks at Radak. "Can you not interrupt others when they're talking? You warrior who looks like you don't hold grudges but are actually petty." Radak is speechless. What is this strange title? Yuna explains, "You won't let me call you by name, and if I just say warrior, how will everyone know who I'm calling? So I have to give you a title that suits you." At these words, Tugel laughs until tears come out. Yulin is also surprised. "This is the first time I've seen Radak so speechless," Yuna says with a smile. "Oh really? Then let everyone see enough of it today." At this moment, Radak roars in his mind, "When will she leave?" He sighs and returns to his seat, thinking, "I think I know how everyone feels about her. All Bitburg people know about the heir. Showing off his achievements to anyone would be ridiculous. But that foreigner knows nothing about the heir. Whatever they say, she's hearing it for the first time. So showing off the heir's achievements to her couldn't be more appropriate." He recalls Ainu's words. This princess has indeed fallen in love with the heir. Then Radak quickly makes an excuse. "Training time is coming up. Please go back." Yuna is puzzled. "Training? I heard from Tiffany that you don't have training today. Are you saying she lied to me?" Radak says helplessly. "Now we've gotten to know each other well enough. Can you speak more casually to me?" He thinks, "I need to find a way to make her stop using formal address with me." But Yuna immediately refuses. "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't want to yet. I still can't call a certain someone by name. We're still far from that." Hearing this, Ram bursts into wild laughter again. Radak thinks furiously, "Ram, you're gonna pay for this." At this moment, someone walks toward Tiffany. "Lady Tiffany, I have something to report." Radak also notices this scene. He freezes. Isn't that the temple's messenger? So he walks over and asks, "Did the temple change plans? That foreigner refuses to speak casually to me, but she seems very close to you, Lady Priestess. Is this the temple's purpose?" Tiffany asks back, "What are you trying to say?" Radak speaks frankly, "I'm just curious why you're so close to her." He says seriously, "You're the one who's supposed to test her. You shouldn't mix in personal feelings." Tiffany is silent for a moment. "You're right. I'm observing her now." Radak warns, "If you use that foreigner to slander the heir, I won't stand by and do nothing." Tiffany is surprised. Slander the heir? Why would I do that? The temple prays for Bitburg's prosperity. Tedragu was the monarch who led Bitburg. She asks back, "What reason would the temple and Tedragu have to be at odds?" She looks at Ainu behind Radak. "Isn't that right, Ainu?" Ainu quickly nods, "Of course. We certainly have no reason to be at odds." At this moment, Yuna suddenly calls out, "Tiffany, I have something to ask you." Tiffany directly steps past the warriors and responds, "Please speak, your highness." Ainu nudges Radak. "Radak, offending the priestess won't do us any good." Radak says sullenly, "I know, but have you forgotten how the heir got to his position today?" Ainu responds solemnly, "Radak, no one will forget that matter." Ainu senses Radak's worry and softly comforts him. Radak states frankly that he will unconditionally support the heir, even if the heir chooses to go against the temple's will. Here, the temple messenger quickly apologizes for interrupting their conversation, and reminds Tiffany it's time to depart. Hearing this, Yuna asks curiously where she's going. Tiffany explains, "Something happened at the temple. I need to go check on it." Then she informs Yuna that she's already notified her attendants to come here and pick her up. Just then, the attendants hurry to the training grounds, calling out loudly for Yuna and the crowd. Yuna's face instantly turns red from being called, utterly embarrassed. Then she quickly runs toward them, telling them not to shout here. "Couldn't you just ask someone?" Oscar answers, "The warriors look so fierce I was too scared to approach and ask." At this moment, Tiffany comes out at the right time, saying she's relieved to see them arrive safely. Now she can leave too. So Yuna waves at her, saying, "Thank you for today, see you next time." Yuna then says she should go back too. There are still many books to read when she gets back. Radak roars in his mind, hoping Yuna will quickly leave the training grounds. After the training ground door opens, Ludek looks toward the direction of the training grounds. He asks Yuna if she became closer with the warriors. Yuna says no, we didn't get close. We just chatted about other things for a long time. Ludek then asks, wanting to know what Yuna talked about with the warriors for these few hours. Yuna thinks for a moment and says, "They kept talking about a super excellent man, and from their words, it sounds like I, this foreigner, am completely unworthy of him." That's right, the man they're talking about is the heir who has achieved so much for Bitburg. Ludek realizes the warriors were talking about things related to Her Highness's fiancé, but from Her Highness's reaction, the warriors praising their lord wasn't just a boast. Yuna continues, "The warriors' meaning is that their lord is too excellent to marry me." Hearing this, Ludek wonders why the warriors are so vigilant. After thinking, Yuna agrees, yes, and they're also super vigilant toward Tiffany. Ludek looks at Yuna with concern and asks if she must interact with these hostile people. Yuna says with a smile, interacting with them is fine. After all, it's easier to guard against open attacks, but hard to defend against hidden schemes. At this moment, Ludek Ludek looks troubled and says there's something he didn't have time to report to her earlier. Actually, the dowry the first prince sent is only half the originally agreed amount. Yuna turns with a smile and says, "Then I should thank my sister. Thanks to her for sending the golden carriage." Ludek says urgently, "That's not the point. Do you know what half a dowry means?" Of course Yuna knows, and Bitburg demanding a huge dowry was actually a polite way to refuse the marriage. My brother couldn't possibly fail to understand this meaning. But even so, my brother still sent the dowry, for two reasons. On one hand, my brother hopes I'll die here. On the other hand, he just wants me to stay here and not leave. Just then, the noisy voices of Oscar and Angelina come from the side again. Seeing this scene, Yuna can't help laughing. Actually, this is pretty good too. Then she says to Ludek, "Actually, Charmin isn't having an easy time either. If I'm someone whose engagement was broken, I have no value to the Empire. I might have an even worse life then, so no matter what happens, I have to establish myself here." A few days later in Bitburg, even Yuna herself is surprised that she's actually reading books. Angelina leans over and teases, saying she hasn't even finished one book yet. Oscar adds that she probably hasn't even finished half a book. Yuna hastily explains, "I'm reading slowly because I don't want to miss any words." Oscar rolls yarn while persuading her to go out for a walk, saying she's just doodling anyway. Yuna argues, saying those aren't proper drawings, just casual sketches. Angelina knits and says, "When the princess was bored in Charmin, she always went to the market. And here is different from Charmin. There are many things to sketch outside." Yuna agrees, saying the atmosphere of people's lives here is indeed different. Not just the city, I'm even curious about the scenery of the villages outside the city. But she suddenly remembers the test and slumps on the table. "But I still have a test to prepare for, and I haven't heard the test questions yet. Who knows what they'll be like?" She worries again, because Tiffany hasn't contacted her since then. Only now does Yuna realize she has no way to contact her proactively. At this moment, Ludek's voice comes from outside the door, saying it's almost noon. Yuna's mood immediately brightens. Now is the time she can see Schneidel. She heard from people that Schneidel is often so busy, he doesn't even have time to eat properly, because to prove his strength, he holds public sparring matches every day. This way he gains people's trust and lets everyone see the Guardian's power. Schneidel usually accompanies the monarch with official duties in the morning, and still has private training after sparring. In the evening, he dines and discusses matters with the Latins, returning to his chambers to rest only when the moon is high. Yuna sighs. After knowing his schedule, she has to be very careful even when asking to meet him. So she changes her mind and starts going to watch the daily public sparring matches. The people around see Yuna and can't help gossiping. Yuna doesn't mind, thinking it doesn't matter what people say. At this moment, someone suddenly exclaims that he has come to the sparring grounds in person. Yuna looks and freezes. "Isn't that Grangnaft?" So she bows first. At this moment, Grangnaft speaks, saying someone reported a noisy foreigner. He came here specifically to deal with her. Hearing this, Yuna quickly plays dumb, saying, "I've been here several days and haven't seen such a person." And that should be the sound of a fiancé praying for her fiancé. Grangnaft doesn't say more and turns to leave. Yuna just breathes a sigh of relief, wanting to find a front row seat. When Grangnaft calls out to her, he says to follow him, otherwise wouldn't he have come here for nothing? Hearing this, Yuna suddenly realizes his meaning. Is he asking me to watch the sparring with him? She looks at the viewing platform and thinks, if I sit there, I should be able to watch the sparring comfortably. I won't have to push and shove with people, and I'll be the center of attention, but that way I won't be able to feel the joy of Schneidel's victory up close. At this moment, she calls out to stop Oscar and Angelina, who want to sneak away behind her, warning them not to sneak away. Then she looks at Ludek, asking if he also wants to betray her. Ludek hastily explains that he just felt the monarch wouldn't hurt anyone, so he didn't follow. Yuna interrupts him, emphasizing that attendants should share their master's troubles. She blocks their way and threatens, whoever leaves, I'll remember it and definitely get revenge later. The three are helpless and complain inwardly that their master is really too childish. On the viewing platform, Yuna sneaks glances at Granyav beside her. She discovers his beard is rough and his appearance fierce. If not for the white hair, she really wouldn't believe he's Schneidel's father. Yuna guesses Schneidel probably resembles his mother more. At this moment, the announcer's voice comes from the arena, beginning to introduce today's two sparring opponents. The first is a descendant of Burglar named Muso. Yuna sees Muso's muscles and can't help exclaiming that they're too scary. The referee then announces that next to enter is the heir Schneidel. As soon as Yuna sees Schneidel, her eyes instantly light up. Then she notices Schneidel is looking around, curious who he's looking for. The direction he's looking is exactly where she's been standing these past few days. Could Schneidel be looking for her? So she waves her hand vigorously, shouting loudly, "Schneidel, good luck!" Grangnaft reminds her from the side to be careful not to dislocate her arm from waving. At this moment, Schneidel approaches the viewing platform and says loudly to Grangnaft on the platform that he will defend Tedragu's honor to the end. Grangnaft looks at Schneidel and slowly nods in acknowledgement. Yuna hesitates and asks Grangnaft, if it's possible, can I pray for Schneidel's victory? Hearing this, Grangnaft gestures for Yuna to go to Schneidel's side, allowing her to do so. So Yuna walks to Schneidel and calls out excitedly. Schneidel! She says there's a saying in Charmin. A maiden's prayer can bring good luck to a knight. She takes Schneidel's hand and says, I'm your fiancé, so my prayer will let you win a perfect victory. After speaking, she bends down and kisses the back of Schneidel's hand. Schneidel's heartbeat accelerates from this action. And even when he turns to prepare to enter the arena, his face is still red, clearly not recovered from his shyness. Back on the viewing platform, Yuna turns and complains to Gragnov that this sparring match is too unfair. At least their builds should be similar. But Muso looks twice as big as Schneidel, though my lucky kiss can help Schneidel ward off danger. Then she asks if Bitburg has the custom of lucky kisses. Gragnov doesn't respond, thinking this foreigner really talks a lot. Seeing he ignores her, Yuna thinks awkwardly that initiating the hand kiss shouldn't be rude here. At this moment, the battle situation suddenly becomes tense, as Muso swings his blade directly at Schneidel. Schneidel reacts quickly and dodges this dangerous strike in time. Yuna is frightened and covers her mouth, thinking today's sparring is really especially dangerous. At this moment, Gragnov speaks from the side, saying what decides victory in battle is never unreliable superstition. In battle, what truly decides victory and defeat is only strength. At this moment, the battle situation gradually improves. Yuna shouts excitedly from the side, Schneidel, keep going! Gragnov asks helplessly if she's determined to be a noisy foreigner before leaving. Yuna retorts, saying, this is a fiancé's prayer for her fiancé's victory and I don't want to leave. Gragnov frowns at this and says there's no need to be so conspicuous. Yuna answers that even if he doesn't approve, the engagement is an official document. Gragnov reminds her, but this engagement contract hasn't been fully fulfilled yet. Yuna asks if he means the half dowry. But even with less, they still need that dowry, don't they? Gragnov informs her that this marriage needs the temple's final approval to succeed. Yuna nods and says she's been working hard studying and preparing recently. At this moment, movement comes from the arena, as Schneidel successfully knocks away his opponent's weapon. Gragnov is also left speechless by Yuna's words and doesn't argue further. Yuna looks at the arena and says happily, he won. Then she turns and asks Gragnov, does completing the marriage really only need the temple's approval? Are there any other obstacles? Gragnov asks back, do you want to marry Schneidel that much? Yuna doesn't hesitate, of course I do, because I've already fallen in love with Schneidel. Below the platform, Schneidel finishes sparring and bows respectfully to Gragnov. At this moment, Gragnov tells Yuna that someone will guide her at noon tomorrow. Then he hands her a map. Yuna takes the map and thinks, who am I going to meet? She asks who lives at the place on the map. Gragnov is silent for a moment and says my sister lives there. Yuna calculates in her mind Gragnov's sister. I should call her aunt following Schneidel. Then Gragnov brings up that she just asked if there are other obstacles. He says seriously, what can obstruct her marriage is the country of Bitburg itself. Yuna freezes, completely not understanding what this means. If the temple has the right to decide the heir's marriage, that means even the monarch can't go against the gods' will. Since the gods are like guardians to Bitburg, naturally people all regard the gods as their faith. Since Bitburg people's faith is deeply rooted, they will also use this faith to explain victory and defeat in battle. But why did Gragnov's previous answers say? It has nothing to do with the gods. She thinks regretfully that she should have asked why he answered that way. It's really strange. The monarch cherishes Bitburg and follows the temple's will, yet used the word obstacle. She really can't understand what this means. On the other side, outside Bitburg City, the houses in the village have been damaged, and there are still bloodstains on the ground. Tiffany is currently inspecting the situation in the village. At this moment, a warrior runs over to report that everyone has been found, and 2 people are in normal condition. The warrior explains while leading the way that those 2 hid in a cave the whole time to avoid the black wolves and didn't come out. As for the other 2 people who stayed home, their situation isn't good. Tiffany asks if there are any Glass in this family. The warrior answers that their father was a Glass, but he passed away last year. The warrior says the girl's leg was bitten by a black wolf, and the boy was seriously injured while saving her. Seeing the people arrive, the girl immediately begs them to spare the boy. At this moment, the warrior says it will be difficult for them to recover their health. Hearing this, Tiffany walks over to examine their injuries, and the girl continues pleading desperately. But Tiffany says the boy can no longer recover his health. Then the warriors take the girl out, and the boy knows his fate, so he begs Tiffany to save his sister. Tiffany strokes his head, telling him not to worry, then begins to pray. Following her prayer, the warriors slowly draw the swords from their waists. Step by step, they approach the injured boy. As soon as the prayer ends, the warrior's sword thrusts down, and the boy is killed on the spot. At this moment, the girl is brought in, and she sees the boy's body. She breaks down and screams, "No, it can't be! Biglin!" Tiffany turns and asks the warrior about the girl's injuries. The warrior answers that none of the injuries are serious. She tells the girl that her younger brother and sister have been sent to the temple, telling her to rest assured. Set asks with a choked voice, "What about Biglin?" Tiffany answers, "Biglin was already an excellent Glass. The gods won't forget their sacrifice." She urges the girl to be strong and not let their sacrifice be in vain. After speaking, the warriors take the girl away from here. After the matter is finished, a subordinate asks if they're going to the temple next. Hearing this, Tiffany says firmly, "No, we're going to Sunrise Canyon." On the other side in the carriage, Yuna holds the map wondering what kind of place Sunrise Canyon is. Ludek worries, saying they wouldn't want to get rid of us there, would they? Yuna doesn't think so, and besides, the monarch, unlike the hostility shown by others, he seems to have other feelings. Yuna asks if they've heard other servants mention the monarch's sister. Oscar sighs and says who would tell them these things, they're as isolated as the princess. Yuna immediately retorts defensively. I'm not isolated. I get along well with Tiffany and the heir's 5 warriors, and my husband is about to become the monarch. Ludek adds at this moment, to be precise, he's not your husband yet. Yuna refuses to accept this and emphasizes he will become my husband soon, very soon. While talking, the group finally arrives at their destination. Opening the carriage door and looking out, everyone can't help exclaiming, it really is a canyon, truly living up to its name. At this moment, someone comes to greet them, telling Yuna to follow him. Then Yuna can't help asking what this place is and where they're taking her. The guide answers, this is Sunrise Canyon. You'll understand naturally once you go inside. Yuna mutters under her breath, this answer has no sincerity at all. Then everyone follows him inside. And at this moment, Angelina sees the person ahead and is immediately startled. Ludek also immediately stands in front of Yuna, ready to protect her. The guide explains that he's not like his appearance. He doesn't have the ability to attack. Then he turns to this person with half his face decayed, gesturing for him to greet Yuna. The person says nervously, hello, I'm Aster. Yuna sees his appearance and freezes in surprise. Then she tells Ludek to quickly put his sword away. Ludek obeys the order, sheathes his sword, and apologizes to him. Then Yuna smiles and greets Aster, saying it's nice to meet him and that her name is Yuna. Aster is extremely surprised, never expecting such a noble person to be so friendly. His cheeks flush with a blush as he shyly says, please come in. So Yuna asks the guide to continue leading the way. The guide nods and leads them inside. Along the way, Yuna sees many disabled people like Aster. Finally, they reach a door and the guide stops, raising his hand to knock. The door opens to reveal an old woman sitting in a rocking chair, swaying slowly. Yuna steps forward and nervously introduces herself, saying she is Princess Carola Incana Charman of the Charman Kingdom. Hearing this, the old woman stops rocking, looks up at Yuna, and asks what she wants. At this moment, Yuna notices that V-Team's gaze is unfocused, seemingly unable to see anymore. She then asks softly if she is Diraz's sister. V-Team asks back how she found this place without even knowing who she is, and that no matter what she wants, she really can't help. Yuna hastily explains that she came without any purpose and that Diraz sent her here. When V-Team hears the name Diraz, she begins to frown. She mutters this name while supporting herself on the chair to stand up. Only then does Yuna notice that V-Team has a tall build, white hair braided into a long plait, and even the muscles under her clothing remarkably resemble Grodnaf's. V-Team suddenly asks if she is an assassin. Hearing this, Yuna is stunned on the spot. She hastily waves her hand saying she's not an assassin and doesn't even know how to fight. Then V-Team mutters to herself that indeed, if Diraz wanted to deal with her, he wouldn't have spared her back then. At this moment, Yuna's heart pounds as she secretly worries that getting involved in political struggles would be too awkward. V-Team then asks if she's the Charman princess. Does that mean Bitburg has been invaded? Yuna says with a smile, hasn't Aunt heard? I am the heir's fiancé. Hearing this, V-Team looks shocked. Diraz actually agreed to let the heir marry a foreigner? Yuna nods, yes. She says although it needs approval elsewhere, the engagement document was signed by Diraz, so that counts as his agreement, right? Hearing this, V-Team clenches her fists and repeats through gritted teeth that he actually agreed to let the heir marry a foreigner. Yuna stands frozen, not understanding how her mood changes faster than flipping a page. Urban quickly steps forward to remind V-Team that there's a guest present and asks her to restrain her temper a bit. But V-Team doesn't stop, venting with anger that the temple must have burned down for even the religion to change. Yuna stands to the side, stammering, completely unsure how to respond. V-Team asks who brought her here, worried whether the heir came along too. Urban replies that it was Hermir. He then introduces to Yuna that the one who brought her here is his younger brother Hermir. Here, V-Team's anger intensifies as she curses that Grodnaft has no right to be a father, pushing everything onto the heir. Urban says from the side that the siblings have been close since childhood, and asks her not to mind V-Team's angry words. But V-Team is still furious, shouting loudly that Grodnaft should be left to freeze to death on the mountaintop. Yuna wonders to herself that although V-Team is clearly blind, her life doesn't seem affected at all. She then says she wants to join in cursing too. Seeing that V-Team doesn't respond, Yuna quickly smooths things over, saying if that's not okay, never mind, just pretend she didn't say it. Then V-Team extends her hand, telling her to sit anywhere. She says she's blind and can't properly entertain her, asking her not to mind. Yuna responds and sits down. Then she can't help but ask if it's because she's a foreigner that V-Team dislikes her. V-Team remains silent without answering. Yuna continues with a smile, asking if her question was too obvious. V-Team finally speaks, saying she doesn't care that she's a foreigner. She just doesn't understand Diraz's actions. She wonders how Diraz, being so busy, would still find a fiancé for the heir, probably because of the dowry, Yuna answers. Although the dowry didn't meet the standard, it does help them. But V-Team says Bitburg wouldn't let a foreigner marry in just because of a dowry, and Diraz especially shouldn't do this. Hearing this, Yuna looks at her teacup and wonders why Aunt is particularly concerned about Diraz's actions. Although they're family, they rarely communicate normally, and their relationship doesn't seem good. Thinking of this, she's even more puzzled about why Diraz wanted her to meet Aunt, so she can't help but ask why Aunt is saying this. Hearing this, V-Team becomes agitated again, saying because he didn't protect her foreign sister-in-law, he's a fool! Hearing this, Yuna is instantly shocked inside. Wait, the sister-in-law she mentioned, could that be the heir's mother? And she's a foreigner! On the snowy mountain on the other side, Schneidel falls into memories. As a child, after his formal training began, man. He learned about his differences from others. He looked short no matter who he stood beside. He was weak no matter who he sparred with. From childhood, the natural gap in physical development between him and others became apparent. To catch up with his peers, he had to put in twice as much effort as others just to barely keep up. During his growth, he could be not strong enough, and while learning, he could be not knowledgeable enough. But after his coming of age ceremony, he had to turn things around, because Bitburg has no room for the weak. He knew he ultimately had to become the strongest warrior in order to survive. His father often told him that victory doesn't come on its own. No matter how good one's talent, the outcome isn't predetermined. Only strength can determine victory or defeat. If he has absolute ability, then even the cruel temple must recognize him as the heir. After becoming the heir, other warriors came to challenge him every day. At first, people worried that he, this child of a foreigner, couldn't support Bitburg's future. And to tear off the label of half-foreigner, he fought for a whole year to defeat all the challengers. He knew the more brutal the combat, the deeper the impression. And when the warriors saw his ruthlessness of not making a sound even when in pain, they all surrendered, tearing off the label and securing the position of heir. His father no longer came to watch his sparring. This meant his father believed he would keep winning. Finally, everyone had no objections to his father's decision to name him heir. The temple also stopped discussing his qualifications as heir. Only then did he truly feel a sense of belonging and experience what it meant to be a successor. That experience was wonderful. People who previously avoided him suddenly began to trust him. Just when he thought he had erased the traces of his other half of heritage, the appearance of the foreign princess began to confuse him. He wondered if the country was in crisis, which was why his father opened the gates to foreigners. He knew his father understood his past hardships, but he really couldn't figure out his father's thinking in doing this. The turmoil caused by foreigners over 20 years ago still lingers, and everyone will surely use the princess's matter to bring up his forgotten foreign bloodline again. Thinking of this, Ulan suddenly rushes forward to call him, and he comes back to his senses. He only hears him asking if his body can handle it. Ulan urges him to leave the trip to the canyon to him, saying they'll be back quickly. Hearing this, he doesn't respond, not knowing how to reply. At this moment, Ram interjects, complaining that Ulan really has no sense. The heir definitely wants to go see someone in person. Tugel doesn't catch on and asks Ram in confusion who he wants to see. Ram answers who else could it be, of course it's Lady Vitim. But as these words reach Schneidel's ears, what appears in his mind is the image of another person. Then they arrive at the canyon. This is the only path that must be crossed to invade Bitburg. After Bitburg repelled enemies, they established a fortress in the canyon to resist foreign invaders. The fortress houses Bitburg people with bodies different from ordinary people, who specifically guard this place to block enemy forces. When enemies enter the canyon, they block them with the determination to die. They're confined to this fortress due to their disabilities, and this is their only way to die as glass. Schneidel recalls that the last time he saw Vitim was a few months ago. He thinks to himself that, if not for picking up Yuna, he wouldn't have come here. Ulan looks ahead, gesturing for Schneidel to look, and says, it's Hermir bringing people over. Hearing this, Schneidel thinks that if it weren't Hermir, the princess probably couldn't even enter the city gates. Ram continues thinking that this shows the sovereign indeed sent Yuna to Vitim. But why would the sovereign do this? After entering the castle, Aster, who is sweeping nearby, suddenly notices Schneidel and is so nervous that his speech becomes somewhat stuttered. Aster finally steadies his tone and says the princess is currently keeping Lady Vitim company. So Schneidel goes to Vitim's residence. Schneidel pushes open the door. He sees Yuna's golden hair shining brightly in the sunlight, and the room is filled with laughter. Just as he opens the door, he guesses that as soon as he speaks, Yuna will immediately smile and call out his name. So Schneidel speaks first, calling out Aunt. Sure enough, Yuna immediately turns to look. Seeing Schneidel, Yuna immediately calls out his name excitedly, full of joy. Hearing this call, Schneidel's heartbeat instantly accelerates. Vitim looks at Schneidel and mentions that he hasn't visited her in a long time. Schneidel responds apologetically, saying he's only coming to visit now and made her wait. Yuna observes from the side, looking at Schneidel, who always has a wooden expression. Yet he has a different expression in front of Vitim. Schneidel notices her gaze, and she suddenly realizes her staring is too obvious, making her face even redder. She feels shy. Just seeing Schneidel's expression different from usual makes her heart flutter. Schneidel also keenly notices Yuna's blushing appearance, and can't help but laugh softly. Vitim pulls Schneidel over and excitedly shows him the portrait Yuna drew of her. Schneidel takes it and says he can't see what's in the portrait. Yuna immediately steps forward, indicating that this painting needs to be seen in a different way. She takes Schneidel's hand and places it on the portrait, teaching him that by slowly feeling it, he can see the marks on the paper. Schneidel feels the marks on the paper, understanding in his heart that the princess drew the portrait this way for his blind aunt. Yuna explains apologetically that she originally wanted to draw Schneidel first, but wasn't sure when she could come again. She quickly adds a promise that the next portrait will definitely be for him. Vitim asks Schneidel if, in his view, she is as beautiful as in the portrait. Schneidel immediately nods, giving an affirmative answer. Hearing this, Yuna happily turns to Vitim and says proudly, "Didn't I tell tell you? Schneidel looks at Yuna's smile, thinking she's truly beautiful. Then he snaps out of it and informs Vitim that he and Yuna should depart. Vitim nods in agreement, saying she can't delay his business. She just can't bear to let the new daughter-in-law leave too. She turns to ask Herben if it's already very late. Hearing this, Herben thinks to himself that the sun is about to set, but this place isn't far from the capital, so there's no need to leave now. He looks at Vitim's rare, happy appearance and wants Schneidel and Yuna to stay a bit longer, but this is perhaps just his selfish desire. He then answers that there's still some time before sunset, but there's news just received. The temple's carriage will arrive here soon. Vitim is surprised at how quickly the temple carriage is arriving, so she hastily urges Yuna to leave, saying it's not good for her to encounter the temple. Yuna hesitates a bit and says, but Tiffany is her friend. Vitim worries that Yuna is too kind, that the temple is most hostile to foreigners, and fears she'll be harmed here. Vitim instructs Schneidel to take good care of the new daughter-in-law, reminding him that the high priestess won't spare her. Schneidel is surprised to hear Vitim call Yuna new daughter-in-law. He didn't expect the two to become so close after just a few hours together. Then he follows Vitim's suggestion and bids her farewell. At this moment, Herben steps forward again to instruct Yuna to keep today's matters confidential. Yuna immediately says with a smile, absolutely confidential. Seeing this, Herben finally feels relieved. On the way back, Herben says he didn't expect him to personally come pick up his fiancé. Schneidel answers that while she lives in Bitburg, protecting her is his duty. Herben sighs, yes, those who can't even protect their partners don't deserve to be Bitburg warriors. But thanks to the princess, Lady Vitim's mood has improved. He brings up the past, saying that after losing her foreign sister-in-law, Lady Vitim denounced Granyavd and never left the fortress again, because Granyavd never cared much about Vitim. So the two of them seem to have always intended to never have anything to do with each other for the rest of their lives. Herben thinks that regardless of the sovereign's intentions, Yuna truly brought new joy to Vitim. If even she can't persist, this will surely hurt Lady Vitim, so he must help Yuna stay in Bitburg at all costs. Then everyone arrives at the carriage. Before leaving, Schneidel asks Herben to take good care of Aunt, and Herben tells him not to worry. As they prepare to board the carriage, Schneidel goes to call Yuna and sees Yuna chatting happily with Aster. He didn't expect that even the usually timid Aster would become so comfortable in front of her. How could such a warm person not make him want to get closer? So he can't help but walk toward the two. Seeing him come, Yuna says with a smile that even if he hadn't come, she was planning to find him. Then Schneidel can't help but reach out to embrace Yuna, feeling the warmth of her body. Yuna is both surprised and delighted. Reacting, she immediately hugs him back tightly. After hugging enough, she pulls him forward. After a few steps, Yuna suddenly stops. She turns around and hesitantly mentions she's already heard about his mother from Aunt. She heard from Aunt that Duraz didn't protect his mother well, and she remembers what he once said. Those who can't protect their partners cannot become Bitburg warriors. But Schneidel refutes this, saying that those who can't protect their partners can't protect the country, and Duraz has no problem in this regard. Yuna still doesn't understand, and asks if Schneidel's mother as the sovereign consort didn't already, but Schneidel says the position of Bitburg's sovereign consort has always been vacant, with no one holding it. After hearing this, Yuna's eyes are full of surprise as she asks what he means. Schneidel explains that his mother didn't pass the temple test and didn't obtain the position of sovereign consort. Therefore, Duraz never bore the shame of failing to protect his wife. Yuna suddenly understands that Schneidel's mother passed away before becoming the official sovereign consort. Yuna also heard that Schneidel's mother passed away without passing the test. She then can't help but ask, but aren't you now recognized as the heir? And just because she didn't pass the test, they still don't acknowledge her as sovereign consort even now? Schneidel explains that it's because she didn't meet the temple's requirement for a strong and healthy body. Hearing this, Yuna suddenly remembers Tiffany's words. She said the heir's partner needs a strong and healthy body, a wise mind, and an upright heart. At this moment, someone says the temple's carriage has arrived, and Yuna snaps back to attention. She sees Tiffany walking forward to greet them. Princess? I didn't expect we'd meet here. Tiffany looks at Schneidel. Her tone is subtle, and she didn't expect the heir to be here either. Schneidel looks at the child being brought down from the carriage. He asks if this is the child staying at the castle. The injuries look serious. How many people survived? Tiffany hesitates for a moment before answering that there's a report in the office, and he'll know when he goes back to see it. She then turns to Yuna and asks if she has time now. Yuna suddenly remembers the test questions and is about to speak but hesitates. She thinks to herself that the test questions must be the ones Schneidel's mother once received, right? But right now she doesn't want to leave Schneidel alone. Plus, with Aunt's warning, she might as well listen next time. Seeing this, Schneidel speaks first, saying to speak now, no need to wait. He looks at Tiffany with an indifferent tone, or are you saying these words can't be spoken in front of me? Tiffany explains she just doesn't want to take up the heir's precious time. Schneidel retorts that this is time he's set aside for his fiancé, and she needn't worry about it. Seeing this, Yuna thinks, how did the atmosphere become so tense? Tiffany stops declining. Since you want to know so much, I have nothing to hide, so I'll talk about the qualification test now. Yuna is startled. So suddenly? Never mind the test questions, she's not even prepared. Tiffany gently advises that she can also give up, saying she really likes her and doesn't want her to get hurt. If she gives up, the temple will give her the highest guest treatment, and she'll stay by her side. Yuna feels warmth in her heart. thinking to herself that Tiffany is speaking sincerely. She's not speaking as someone from the temple that rejects foreigners but genuinely cares about her. But she still firmly states she won't give up. She holds Tiffany's hand and continues, "But thank you for worrying about me. I'll be fine. Tell me about the test content." Tiffany has no choice but to inform her that the first test is to prove physical strength. She needs to retrieve the golden fleece from the summit of the Winter Mountains. As soon as these words come out, the surrounding people immediately stir. The summit of the Winter Mountains? Even the heir hasn't been up there. How can she climb it? There must be many wild beasts there. It's too dangerous. Seeing this, Tiffany feels annoyed with herself. It looks like she caused trouble again. How can she not control her mouth? She should have listened to the test questions first before making bold statements. At this moment, at Charmin Castle on the other side, in the first prince's study, Hexion says he heard that to become sovereign, one must climb the summit of the Winter Mountains. The princess is in danger. First, Prince Laurel removes his glasses and says in an indifferent tone, "What does this have to do with you?" Hexion anxiously tries to explain but is interrupted by Laurel. He indicates that if he had been this enthusiastic when Yuna was leaving, perhaps he would reconsider the engagement. But how did he hear that he said vengeful things to Yuna when they broke up? Hexion hastily denies this, saying he didn't have a chance at the time. Laurel sneers inwardly. Fool, saying he had no chance. He was just afraid of offending me and didn't dare stand up at all. This fool, though stupid, comes from a wealthy family, and he once thought that if he could win Yuna's heart, he'd let them marry. But unfortunately, Yuna has amazingly accurate judgment of people. He really can't be bothered to deal with him. So he says, if you truly feel regret, you can go see for yourself. Hexion is shocked. What? Before he can react, Laurel finally dismisses him, saying he has matters to handle. After Hexion leaves, Laurel thinks to himself, the summit of the Winter Mountains. Will Yuna really be in mortal danger there? Then he feels this thought is absurd. How could she possibly climb to the summit of the Winter Mountains? A few months ago, Yuna came to him with a bottle to have a showdown, saying she wouldn't compete with him for the throne. Laurel held the bottle with a confused expression, asking what this is. Yuna puts her hands on her hips and says it's poison, and she suspects he did it. Laurel denies this. Yuna immediately guesses it was their sister and complains that the method was too careless. Laurel puts down the poison, thinking this is absurd. Even if he were the culprit, she shouldn't pursue it so openly. This sister is so calm after being poisoned, and did that spy confess? Seeing her dissatisfaction, Laurel offers to help her get revenge on their sister. Yuna quickly waves her hand saying, forget it, don't drag her into this mess, she just wants to stay far away. She takes the opportunity to make her position clear, saying she has no interest in the throne, and can't even be bothered to look at it. She frankly says she's content with the status quo and hopes her brother will be merciful and let her live peacefully. Laurel doesn't believe her at all, staring at Yuna and asking why he should believe her words. Yuna is speechless, saying her brother really won't listen to reason. Then she has a flash of inspiration, and proposes a condition. As long as she can eat well and have fun, she'll obediently go through with the arranged marriage. She emphasizes that although their sister is bad, she herself is an obedient good sister who won't cause trouble. Laurel stares at the poison on the table, thinking, is it really like this? The spy's defection shows that Yuna is especially good at winning people over. He thinks to himself that Yuna is thick-skinned and can thrive no matter where she's thrown. On the other side, Yuna in the carriage is still asking what's at the summit of the Winter Mountains. She guesses everything from bears to wolves to tigers. Schneidel answers that she'll encounter all those animals before reaching the summit. Yuna panics immediately upon hearing this. She'll really encounter tigers? Schneidel's tone becomes heavy, saying the cold at the summit can freeze through to the bone and is more terrifying than animals. After hearing this, Yuna deflates instantly. Schneidel sighs and says bluntly that the answer to this test is actually very simple. Yuna immediately perks up, her eyes shining as she asks what it is. It's to give up, Schneidel says directly. He explains that the summit of the Winter Mountains is only climbed when the Bitburg heir ascends to power. The heir climbs to the summit to obtain the golden fleece that covers the sovereign's throne. And that fleece is actually mountain goat skin from the summit, named for its golden color. He thinks only Bitburg's finest warriors can barely accomplish this, so the temple's intention is obvious. They want the princess to back down in the face of difficulty. Schneidel says he's never been to the summit, and only Duraz and Bitburg has reached the top. He urges Yuna to give up, saying she knows nothing about the wilderness and this is meaningless. Yuna asks defiantly, not understanding why he's thinking about giving up without even trying. She continues saying that as long as she passes the temple test, this marriage can proceed smoothly. Schneidel's face is full of worry as he says bluntly she might lose her life like his mother did. Yuna suddenly remembers Aunt Vitim's words. She said Status was pregnant with Schneidel when she collapsed and died during the test. Schneidel was born prematurely that year and fought with his mother for survival against death. But in the end, only Schneidel miraculously survived. Therefore, from birth, he was never properly held by his mother, since the country doesn't acknowledge Status's existence. Then although Schneidel has the title of heir, he must have faced strange looks from those around him growing up. Vitim also said foreigners can't even enter Tedragu's courtyard. Therefore, people all thought the crisis facing Tedragu's descendants was a warning from the gods. So even though Schneidel miraculously survived, if he didn't work desperately hard, he would still be abandoned by the gods. At this moment, Yuna gently tells Schneidel that perhaps he can think from a different angle. Actually, the gods have already accepted the other half of the blood in his body. Yuna admits that after living in Bitburg, she knows the people here can't deny the gods, but isn't interpreting the gods will a human matter. Can't they believe the gods are tolerant? She then makes up her mind that she needs to pass the test first so he can believe in her. But Schneidel says firmly that her passing the test is simply impossible. Yuna defiantly says she'll pester Diraz to ask about his summit experience, maybe she'll gain something. Seeing this, Schneidel is full of doubt. He says he can't believe she's risking her life for the test just because she fell in love with him. He tells Yuna to just say what benefits she can get. Yuna feels a bit wronged, saying his words make her sound like a strange person. Then she simply admits that she both wants the future position of sovereign consort and wants to gain the love of such a handsome Schneidel, with the latter being more important. Schneidel feels this reason doesn't make sense and still can't understand. Yuna props her chin and says if he finds it strange, he doesn't need to understand, because even she herself doesn't get it. Early the next morning, Bitburg erupts in chaos. Everyone in the city is discussing the temple's outrageous test, and in the tailor shop at the end of the street, Oscar finds Dome and says straightforwardly that he wants to make clothes for the winter mountains. Dome looks astonished and flatly refuses to make clothes for foreigners. Oscar unhurriedly adds that Diraz said to let Dome decide for himself whether to do it or not. Dome is shocked. He even got Diraz's approval? He immediately finds an excuse to refuse, saying clothes require fabric and tailoring. Oscar immediately responds, saying he's already been to the workshop. A craftsman named Kuet recommended him. Dome is completely dumbfounded. This rival actually agreed, and even recommended him, seeing he hasn't relented. Oscar says he'll come back in a couple of days. Before leaving, he also mentions that the workshop was visited by their princess herself, and in just 1 hour, that craftsman agreed. On the other side, Yuna goes to find Hermir again, greeting him as soon as she enters. Hermir thinks to himself, why is she here again? He then says in a low mood that the heir is in the office, but Yuna says with a smile that she came for him. Hermir says without looking up that he's very busy, trying to send her away. Yuna asks again if she can see Diraz. Hermir helplessly says Diraz is even busier. Yuna sits down nonchalantly, saying she'll draw him today too, and he should just go about his business. Hermir feels uneasy. The princess has come 3 days in a row and only brings paper and pen. She keeps drawing him in various poses and expressions, and gives them to him when finished, which makes him very uncomfortable. Here, Yuna also frankly praises Hermir's well-proportioned physique, saying a full-body drawing would be even more handsome. Hermir really can't take it anymore, and tells her to speak directly if she has something to say, asking if she came to inquire about information for the test. But Yuna says there's no particular reason, she just wanted to come find him. Hermir asks again, doesn't she want to know information about the winter mountains? Yuna raises her hand and says knowing wouldn't help, he can't go up there for her anyway, leaving Hermir speechless. Then Hermir changes the subject, asking if she studied painting. Yuna answers that she hasn't. She just draws casually for fun. After all, according to Charmin's rules, being too outstanding causes trouble. She explains that Charmin people like those who stand out, either strong or smart. And this is different from how Bitburg treats the heir, placing more emphasis on the people's impression and approval. Hermir follows along, saying then she must be very popular in Charmin. Hearing this, Yuna becomes quiet and doesn't answer. Hermir looks up at her strangely, and finds her just sitting there quietly smiling, as if thinking about something. Then she speaks up and talks about her family. She mentions her eldest brother is a perfectionist, but with a sharp personality. When he saw her second brother gaining momentum, he eliminated the threat ruthlessly without mercy. Her second sister is a war hero who has never lost a battle, but she sold their third sister to an enemy nation as a marriage alliance gift. And her third brother deceives wealthy women with his looks and charm. A complete bad man. But the funny thing is, while deceiving others, he's also hopelessly in love with one person. Hermir listens in shock, thinking to himself, she can talk about such things while smiling, but Yuna is very calm. She says she grew up in an environment where siblings harm each other. She gives examples such as being afraid her older sister would kill her if she could ride a horse, and being afraid her older brother would suppress her if she studied hard. Hermir really can't listen anymore and interrupts her, telling her to stop. Just listening makes him realize how difficult her past was. Yuna smiles and changes the subject, saying no one feels threatened by painting. It's a safe and enjoyable hobby. At this moment, Hermir asks her in return if there's nothing she's curious about and wants to ask him. Hearing this, Yuna thinks for a moment. She asks if Sunrise Canyon is specifically a place for disabled Bitburg people. She presses on, asking. She's heard every person in Bitburg has a duty. So what do the people in the canyon do? The moment she finishes speaking, someone behind her suddenly interjects. When enemies appear, they serve as living shields. Yuna turns around and discovers it's Diraz. Diraz looks at Yuna and says in a flat tone that he didn't expect her to be curious about Sunrise Canyon. Yuna quickly stands up and bows, saying she heard he's very busy. So why did he come here specifically? Diraz says frankly that it was too noisy over here, so he came to check what's going on. Then he asks Yuna why she doesn't ask about the winter mountains, but instead keeps fixating on Sunrise Canyon. Yuna voices her opinion, feeling that the investment in watching over the canyon is too much just for preventing enemies. She points out that relying on hunting to support the canyon's expenses isn't realistic. The scale is too large to maintain. She adds that while isolation keeps Bitburg stable, it definitely won't work in the long run. She boldly guesses that the marriage alliance between Bitburg and Charmin is meant to solve this problem. Yuna says when she learned that Schneidel's mother was a foreigner, she understood that Daraz had long wanted to open communication with the outside world, because he knows it's difficult to survive between the mountains. He wants to use the marriage arrangement to bring foreigners in to influence everyone. So Yuna bluntly asks Daraz if he actually needs her. Seeing that Daraz doesn't refute this, Yuna immediately begs him to help her, promising she can succeed, and that she wants to prove it to Schneidel. Daraz asks what she wants to prove. Yuna says she wants to prove that the gods have long accepted Schneidel's foreign blood, and ideally make Schneidel fall for her in the process. Hermir on the side silently complains to himself. How can she say such things without even blushing? Are all foreigners this confident? He thinks again. The Winter Mountains are Bitburg's barrier. This princess has only been here a month and wants to overturn it. How overconfident? He's very curious how Daraz views this matter. At this moment, Daraz suddenly asks Yuna why she's not going to watch Schneidel's sparring practice. Yuna says happily that Schneidel is very strong and can win without her cheering him on. Then she says if she doesn't go, he'll have fewer complaints to deal with. So can he help her because of this? Just as she finishes speaking, someone comes to report that someone from the temple has arrived with urgent matters to report. Daraz asks what it is, while Yuna guesses on the side that it should be Tiffany. The messenger explains it's about the Black Wolf Pack issue and needs to be reported to Daraz in person. Daraz says he understands, and tells the messenger to bring Tiffany in immediately. After the report, Yuna and Tiffany leave together, walking in the corridor. Yuna wonders to herself, this is the first time seeing each other since the canyon incident, so why isn't Tiffany saying anything? She recalls the strange atmosphere when she and Schneidel met Tiffany before. Did that day hurt her feelings? Yuna struggles with whether to greet her first. Just as she's pondering, Tiffany suddenly speaks, quietly asking Yuna if she hates her now. Yuna is both surprised and delighted, not processing what she said, and hastily responds, I'm doing well too. Then she immediately realizes something's wrong. Isn't that what she wanted to ask? Yuna is puzzled. Has Tiffany been watching her reactions all along, worried about being disliked? She exclaims in her heart that Tiffany like this is really adorable. Then she quickly grabs Tiffany's hand, saying she doesn't hate her, and was worried the canyon incident hurt her. She admits she was just struggling with how to greet her, and that she's actually very happy to see Tiffany. But Tiffany lowers her head and quietly brings up that day's events, saying the princess should know about her job. She explains that she has to assess the degree of disability and handle it. The temple is very cruel. Yuna listens and suddenly recalls what happened before, wondering what Schneidel and Tiffany talked about back then. She vaguely remembers mentions of someone being attacked, in critical condition, and an injured girl. Yuna suddenly realizes that Tiffany is the one who screens people going to the canyon, and her previous departure was also related to this. She also thinks of Status's situation and wonders if there's more inside information she doesn't know about. Then she admits that day she heard about Schneidel's mother, but still doesn't understand her work. But she immediately adds that even if she knew, she wouldn't hate her, and then asks why she's worried. Tiffany says softly that she's afraid the test she set was too difficult. Yuna says with a smile that for her, everyone is a person of Bitburg, and she wants to get close to them and spend time together. Moreover, Tiffany is her precious first friend, and she's especially beautiful. Just looking at her makes one feel good, and she thinks of her in every way. Yuna leans closer to her. When she advised her to give up before and offered noble treatment, she almost wavered. Tiffany is successfully amused by her. Yuna adds that now the whole city is talking about it. She can't avoid the test even if she wanted to, and her popularity is sky high. But Tiffany says softly that she doesn't want it to be like this. Tiffany says shyly that it's like a gem only she knew about is being taken away. Yuna is instantly struck by her cuteness. Yuna quickly hugs her to comfort her, saying without her help she'd have trouble adapting here. Then she takes her hand and asks where they're going now. Tiffany thinks that Daraz finally entrusted the princess to her, so why not take her to see where she works? At this moment in Bitburg Castle, Schneidel is walking rapidly through the palace, his breathing somewhat unsteady. Daraz, who is working, notices him and tells his subordinates to leave first. After the subordinates leave, Schneidel asks what that thing was just now. Daraz sits down and says it's the personnel list for the Great Hunt, and asks back why he's here. Schneidel hasn't answered, yet when his gaze catches the painting Yuna drew for Daraz, and he instantly understands something. Daraz awkwardly blocks the painting and asks Schneidel if he came to see the princess. Schneidel admits, saying he heard the princess has been here for several days. Daraz teases, saying yes, she didn't even go to your sparring practice, and because he ignored her, she followed Hermir around and drew dozens of paintings. The two of them were so noisy chatting today. Schneidel asks urgently if they're still together now. Daraz says he just let the princess leave and doesn't know where she went, and deliberately adds that Hermir might know. Schneidel immediately gets anxious and asks back why Hermir would know. Daraz says with a laugh that he's teasing him. Schneidel realizes he's been teased, and his cheeks instantly flush. Daraz looks at Schneidel's shy expression and finds he looks just like his mother. He directly points out that he really likes the princess, doesn't he? But Schneidel makes an excuse, saying he needs to protect her. Daraz says seriously that protection is needed when there's danger. Where's the danger for her? Schneidel answers that the test the temple set for her to climb the Winter Mountains completely disregards her safety. Hearing this, Diraz says, "Oh no, Yuna just left with the priestess," and Schneidel freezes instantly. He says the priestess is the one who set the test. She most wants the princess to fail. Diraz asks Schneidel back whether he wants the princess to take the test. Schneidel can't answer. Seeing this, Diraz understands clearly in his heart his foolish son is indeed, as Yuna said, smitten by her. He stands up and reminds Schneidel that he's the heir, his only son and future monarch, and has the right to make demands, whatever he wants. As long as he can take responsibility, he can say whatever he wants. Diraz looks at his expression and thinks that with his personality, it's probably hard for him to speak up. Schneidel hesitates for a moment, remembering Yuna's words of encouragement before, and finally makes up his mind to speak. Schneidel turns to face Diraz and says with a firm tone, "Please tell me. The path to the summit of the Winter Mountains." On the other side, Yuna thought the priestess's workplace would be the temple, but the scene before her leaves her dumbfounded. Did I just arrive at a kindergarten? At this moment, a little boy curiously comes over and asks if she's a new priestess. A little girl beside him calls him out, saying she's a foreigner. What an idiot. Yuna quickly mediates, explaining she's not a priestess but the prospective consort of the heir. The little girl immediately argues that she's lying, stating bluntly that the heir doesn't have a girlfriend at all right now. Yuna hastily explains she's the heir's fiancé, but the little girl says she'll become the heir's consort in 10 years. She consoles herself that she is just a 10-year-old child and she should be tolerant with a broad mind. But the child adds salt to the wound, saying, "Lady, aren't you that foreigner who pesters the heir every day? Just give up. The heir definitely needs to date someone beautiful and handsome." Yuna refuses to accept this, saying the heir should indeed date someone beautiful and handsome. And that person is her. That's why she received the engagement letter. The child instantly loses it, angrily shouting that she's lying. Yuna wants to share her secrets for winning over men and mentions Charmin. Tiffany appears just then, holding a little boy, and presses her on how things were in Charmin. Yuna quickly changes the subject, asking where exactly this place is. Tiffany hands the little boy to the girl from before and says this is the temple. Then she leads Yuna toward the reception room, continuing to say, "As you can see, this is also a place that cares for many children." The two arrive at the reception room. Tiffany says children have so many things, no matter how much you clean it's never tidy, and gestures for Yuna to sit down. After sitting down, Yuna curiously asks if all these children are cared for by the temple. Tiffany nods and says yes, because these children are all orphans with nowhere to go. Yuna drinks her tea and thinks she expected the temple to have grand altars and statues of gods, since the people rely so much on the gods. She didn't expect that from the entrance to the room. She hasn't seen even a shadow of a god statue. Tiffany explains that when wild animals come down the mountain to hunt for food, warriors in remote areas often lose their lives. Among the orphans, those who can become glass are sent to the temple, while the disabled can only be sent to Sunrise Canyon. She adds that children who've lost their parents are destined to forget their bloodlines and serve the gods. Yuna looks at her reflection in the cup and thinks that serving the gods isn't just about prayers and rituals. There are so many responsibilities. The temple can't care for disabled children, so they send them to the canyon. Tiffany grips her skirt and admits, saying Bitburg is such a cruel country. That's why all past monarchs and consorts have had it hard. Everyone relies only on them. Tiffany says the people's trust is too heavy a burden. The monarch is both protector and the warrior who charges to the front, responsible for everyone. She adds that the monarch must also obey the divine decree of Brito, executing the god's commands in place of all other members, treating sacrifice as a natural duty. Therefore, the monarch's partner must have a strong body, a wise mind, and an upright heart. She admits that sometimes she feels the people's gazes are as terrifying as starving demons. After speaking, she observes Yuna's expression, hoping she'll back down after hearing this, but she suddenly says firmly that no matter what, she will become Bitburg's consort. Tiffany becomes anxious, saying she and the heir just have an engagement. She doesn't have to fulfill such heavy obligations. Yuna seriously denies this, saying this isn't a political marriage. It's because she fell in love with Schneidel at first sight. She says with a smile that if Schneidel must walk this path, she wants to be by his side to help him. Moreover, for Bitburg to change, it needs people with new ideas, new perspectives to break the status quo. Tiffany asks her heavily, does she think she's the one who can change everything? Yuna says honestly that it might not be her, but she hopes it is, and doesn't want anyone else by Schneidel's side. She adds that, although she's been here a short time, she's already grown to like Bitburg and finds the people here very genuine. People here don't hide their affection. If they like you, they drop their guard. No need to guess what they're thinking. She admits that for someone used to dealing with people wearing multiple masks, this is especially refreshing. At this moment, someone suddenly bursts in calling for Tiffany. Tiffany frowns and says she's being too rude. The princess is still here. That person hastily apologizes, then says, the high priestess has just arrived at the temple. Yuna notices that upon hearing the high priestess has arrived, Tiffany's state is clearly off. Just then, the high priestess's voice comes, saying this is truly an unexpected foreign face. Yuna sees the person who arrived, so this is the high priestess. Then she steadies her voice and introduces herself as Princess Yuna of Charmin. The high priestess responds coldly, I am Brito. Tiffany steadies herself at this moment and asks about her purpose for coming. Brito answers that she just picked up the Great Hunt list and stopped by on her way back. Then she hands the list to Tiffany, telling her to take a good look. Tiffany takes the list, sees the name Yuna, and her face instantly turns pale. Yuna leans forward, sees her pressing her lips together, and asks softly, "What's wrong?" Only to hear Brito look at Yuna mockingly, saying it seems the monarch has forgotten the lesson. He actually let a foreigner onto the Great Hunt list. Yuna points to herself with wide eyes. "Are you talking about me?" Brito responds expressionlessly, "Yes, you, in Schneidel's study." He works while saying irritably, "How long exactly are you planning to stay? If there's a problem with the list, go find Diraz, don't come to me." Then he glances up at Tiffany. "I don't have that much time." Tiffany's chest heaves as she says she didn't expect to be able to persuade the monarch. Schneidel scoffs, "So? You think I can persuade?" Tiffany responds, "But the final list is with you. Or are you saying you don't care if she gets hurt?" Schneidel stops writing upon hearing this, looks up with cold eyes and asks, "What right do you have to say that?" Tiffany responds to this, "Does worrying about her require some kind of qualification?" Schneidel stops writing and responds sharply, "Of course it does, because she's my fiancé." Tiffany presses further, "But that's not what a fiancé who's sending her to her death should say." Schneidel responds coldly, "I'm taking her on the hunt. She'll be safe by my side." Tiffany says fiercely, "Being by your side is no different from death. Letting her go is protecting her. But the person who set the impossible test of climbing to the summit was you, wasn't it?" Schneidel responds, cutting straight to the point, "And stop inserting yourself into matters between her and me." Tiffany laughs coldly, "Are you showing off your political marriage arrangement?" Fire flashes in Schneidel's eyes. "You're the one showing off your close relationship in front of me." Then he issues an order to leave. "Since this conversation is unpleasant, please, leave now." Tiffany grits her teeth, then leaves in resentment. With the sound of a door slamming, only Schneidel remains in the study. He sighs helplessly. The person who just made him jealous? He can't even see her face now. Before, she was around him every day. Now there are only rumors about her. He mutters sullenly that she said the first painting would be of him. But now look, she's going around painting for everyone. Schneidel shouts toward the door. I knew immediately comes in to receive orders. He asks if the princess went to Diraz's place today too. Ainu answers no. She went with her servants to pick up the clothes she had custom made before. Hearing this, Schneidel grabs his fur coat and stands up, puts it on and says he's going out for a bit. Ainu looks at the mountain of documents piled on the desk and says, "Your work doesn't seem to be finished." Schneidel turns his head upon hearing this and lies softly, saying that's actually work for tomorrow. Ainu says strangely, "How come I see these are today's documents?" After Schneidel says doing them tomorrow is fine too, he quickly passes by Ainu and leaves, leaving only Ainu standing there stunned. This is too unbelievable. The heir actually left without finishing his work. In the tailor shop, Yuna has already changed into winter clothes and waits for Oscar and the others to comment on her new outfit. Yuna is bundled in thick clothes, looking completely round and plump. Seeing this, the two circle around Yuna, saying if she falls, she can smoothly roll down to the foot of the mountain. Hearing this, Yuna quickly turns to ask Dom if she'll really roll to the foot of the mountain. Dom steps forward to comfort Yuna, saying she'll stop when she hits a tree or rock. Yuna breathes a sigh of relief. Really? That's good then. Watching this scene, Dom thinks to himself how noisy. He silently reflects, Oscar is so well behaved when he comes alone, so why does he become so childish when he's with the princess? Yuna looks at the clothes in the shop and praises him, saying his clothes fit well and his craftsmanship is outstanding. No wonder Diraz has only let him make clothes in recent years. Dom, hearing the praise, says somewhat shyly that he's just one ordinary tailor among many. Yuna continues to press, then why does Diraz only let him make clothes? The monarch's clothing can't be entrusted to just anyone. It must be because his skills are exceptional. Yuna praises again that the clothes are sturdy and well-fitting, the colors and lines are well-coordinated. Even a layperson thinks they're excellent. Yuna suddenly realizes she's talking too much and looks embarrassed. She turns to leave and thanks Dom, saying thanks to him, she'll be able to successfully climb the winter mountains. Dom suddenly calls out to Yuna. He says shyly that he happened to have some leather left over, and thinking the festival is coming soon, he made a piece of clothing for Yuna. Dom awkwardly adds that if she doesn't need it, it's fine. There really was just leftover leather. At this moment, Yuna is already immersed in surprise, unable to believe this clothing is for her. Dom explains shyly that he made it casually because he didn't want to waste the material. Yuna is overjoyed upon hearing this, immediately steps forward to hug Dom, expressing her heartfelt gratitude. She happily asks if she can try it on right now. Yuna quickly puts on the clothes and comes out, lifts the hem and asks, "How is it? I don't know if I'm wearing it right." Dom steps forward to help her tie the bow, telling her to just tie the fabric on one side of the garment toward the back. Yuna touches the clothing, feeling that even with the leather added, it's not stuffy. It would be very comfortable to wear in daily life. She says with emotion that this is the first gift she's received since coming to Bitburg. She feels embarrassed receiving a gift directly, and suggests giving Dom a return gift. At this moment, Schneidel suddenly appears, asking if the return gift is a painting. Schneidel stares at Yuna's new clothes, asking if she's going to wear it to climb the winter mountains. Yuna replies, "No, because this is a gift from Dom." She says with a smile that she just happened to lack clothes from here, and Dom sent one over. Then she asks him if it suits her. She turns to show the bow on the clothes, saying this is the first time she's seen this way of tying it. Schneidel looks at the bow and says it seems Dom tied it. Yuna replies, "Yes, it's so cute. I don't want to take it off." Dom, listening to their conversation on the side, has slightly flushed cheeks. Schneidel suddenly speaks up, saying he can tie it better. Yuna doesn't hear clearly, looks puzzled, and asks what he said. Schneidel takes the bow at her waist, and says seriously that he's more skilled at tying Bitburg's traditional bow. Yuna realizes what he means and looks delighted. Then she suggests that next time Schneidel can help her tie it. This bow-tying method is too difficult for her. Schneidel is silent for a moment, then softly agrees to Yuna's suggestion. Yuna receives the reply and appears calm on the surface, but inside she's cheering with joy. Her efforts have finally been noticed by Heaven. Then Schneidel asks if she has any other plans. He wants to accompany her. Yuna happily agrees, but then feels puzzled. She remembers that at this time, Schneidel should be working. So she says she knows Schneidel is busy and doesn't want to delay his time. Schneidel responds, saying the work can be done tomorrow. Yuna looks surprised, wondering if Diraz sent him out to run errands. She feels indignant on Schneidel's behalf, thinking he shouldn't be made to do such things when he's so busy. Schneidel hastily denies it, saying he's not out running errands. He admits frankly that he came out before even starting work, just because he wanted to be with her. Only then does Yuna realize that Schneidel wants to go on a date with her, so she happily takes Schneidel's hand, and says with a smile that she's willing to accept this rare date invitation. On the street, Yuna remarks to Schneidel that Dom has such good taste in choosing leather. It's so suitable. Schneidel thinks to himself that actually he was the one who chose the leather for her. But thinking again, as long as she's happy, he goes along with her words and praises Dom. Then Yuna adds that she feels the people of Bitburg really value relationships. Schneidel looks puzzled and asks why she would make such a judgment. Yuna explains that the vigilance everyone showed toward her at first was perhaps all because of shyness, right? Hearing this, Schneidel thinks, do they really value relationships? No, it's that everyone, because of her warmth, has behaved unusually. Likewise, he's the same, because of her. He's actually putting down, for the first time, the mountain of piled-up work just to see her. On the street, Yuna continues, saying there are too many scenes she wants to paint, and she's considering temporarily moving out. Schneidel immediately firmly opposes this, saying doing so would be very dangerous. The two fall into a brief silence. Then Yuna is the first to laugh heartily, saying she was just joking. Seeing this, Schneidel wonders if he said something strange. Yuna walks ahead, saying she's just happy, and seriously states she'll cherish her body and be careful. After hearing this, Schneidel asks back, then why does she still plan to climb the winter mountains? Yuna says climbing the mountains is something she must do, and asks if he'll also try to stop her. Schneidel recalls what Tiffany said to him, and asks Yuna if she would be unhappy if he said he wouldn't stop her. Yuna immediately says with a smile that not only would she not be unhappy, she'd actually be very happy. This means he's finally starting to consider her position in Bitburg. She admits that now even children don't believe she's Schneidel's fiancé. So as long as she passes the test, she'll post their relationship everywhere. Schneidel speaks softly behind her, saying if she feels it's too much, she can give up any time. He won't stop her, because in his view, the value of this position isn't worth her taking such a great risk. Yuna is silent for a moment upon hearing this, and realizes that Schneidel now, compared to the one before who would only tell her to give up without saying anything else, has made huge progress. But it's only his attitude that's changed. The outcome of persuading her to give up hasn't changed at all. Yuna looks puzzled, not understanding why even though Schneidel has clearly opened his heart to her, the distance between them hasn't closed. She doesn't think Schneidel dislikes her. After all, he's willing to come out during work hours to stay by her side. Yuna feels that with her efforts, Schneidel is slowly opening his heart and will protect her safety. But she's also somewhat uncertain, feeling that Schneidel's protection is more like considering the worst-case scenario of her returning home. Yuna asks if it's because their relationship is just a political marriage. That makes his attitude consistently stiff. Schneidel hastily denies it, saying that's not what he means. Yuna waves her hand with a smile, saying it's okay. She can understand his concerns. She looks at him honestly. To be fair, she has no need to risk her life to bear this obligation either. Then she suddenly realizes, and finally understands, what Tiffany's words before meant. Yuna says frankly that no matter how much they deny it now, the fact that their relationship began as a political marriage can't be changed. Yuna hesitates for a moment and asks if he really dislikes her. Schneidel immediately denies it urgently. It's not like that. Yuna breathes a sigh of relief, saying as long as it's not dislike, that's fine. Ultimately, as long as their feelings for each other aren't politically motivated, everything's fine. So she gradually moves closer to Schneidel, and suggests that since they can't get married right away anyway, why not start with something simple? Schneidel looks puzzled and asks what specifically something simple means. Dating, of course. What do you say? Yuna says with a smile. The next day in the temple, Brito asks if Schneidel is indeed unwilling to cooperate. It seems this father and son have made up their minds to do this. Others have no way to stop them, she says, gripping the pendant at her chest. Tiffany then suggests that she also wants to go on the great hunt and accompany Yuna. Brito immediately objects, saying she has no need to risk going. Tiffany still wants to argue, but is interrupted by Brito asking if the ritual is ready. With the festival approaching, Tiffany can only respond that everything will be ready by today, asking her to wait without worry. Brito says there's been news before that the foreigner is stubborn. She reminds Tiffany that if she feels it's too difficult, she can say so anytime. She's happy to help. Seeing this, Tiffany can only agree and doesn't mention accompanying Yuna again. On the other side, no matter how Yuna recalls her confession before, she thinks it was perfect. She lies on the table, not understanding why Schneidel only responded with okay. Oscar comforts her on the side, saying at least Schneidel has agreed to date her. Yuna argues back that even if the culture is different, it shouldn't be such a cold reaction. She says she didn't expect Schneidel to have some amazing response, but at the very least he should have had a response that was both cool and moving enough to bring tears. How could he be so cold? It's like she forced him to agree to date. At this moment, Angelina calls her name. Just as Yuna thinks she's going to comfort her, she hears her say, "Hasn't the princess been like this from the beginning?" Yuna immediately retorts that it's because she's going to marry Schneidel that she's so proactive. What is marriage? Marriage is holding hands and growing old together, cherishing each other for a lifetime. But right after agreeing to date, he mentioned going back. What does that mean? He clearly said the work could be done tomorrow. At this moment, Ludek follows along complaining that leaving right after being confessed to is indeed rude. Yuna immediately finds validation in him, but the next second accuses him of daring to badmouth Schneidel and then assigns him to go find out about Schneidel. Ludek is completely bewildered upon hearing this. This is too difficult for him. In the corridor, Ludek thinks helplessly that having these two talk directly would be the fastest way. Just as Ludek worries about what to do next, he runs into Schneidel's warrior Ainu on the road, so he approaches to chat, asking if he's the warrior Ainu. Ainu nods, saying that's right, and also recognizes him as Ludek, the guard protecting the princess. After they speak, neither says anything more, and the atmosphere becomes somewhat awkward. Ludek breaks the awkwardness first, saying, "Well, I'll take my leave then." Ending the conversation, Ainu politely responds, "Take care," but afterward the two unexpectedly walk side by side. Ludek is full of awkwardness inside, not knowing where Ainu is going to walk with him. Ludek speaks first to break the silence, asking if the heir's work has been very busy lately. Ainu thinks and then answers, "How should I put it? I suppose it's very busy." Ainu recalls yesterday in the study, he was organizing materials and caught a glimpse of Schneidel returning early. He asked at the time if the princess's clothes were ready, but the heir didn't acknowledge his words. He felt the atmosphere was off at the time. He guessed something had happened. It was probably related to the princess, which is why the heir cared so much. So he knelt down, saying that the 5 warriors will forever follow the heir's wishes. As long as it's his will, the warriors will faithfully carry it out, so he can rest assured doing anything he wants to do, without any worries. Schneidel was deeply moved upon hearing this. Then Ainu continued, saying that actually everyone knows the heir has fallen in love with the princess. He adds that Yuna is skilled at socializing. Even Yulan was once praised by her for having well-developed muscles. He says with a laugh that Ulan keeps repeating this and feels secretly proud. The heir really should see it. Schneidel's mood plummets instantly after hearing this. Is that so? I wish I could have seen it myself. Ainu immediately senses something is wrong and thinks to himself, "Sorry Ulan, you're on your own now." So he quickly changes the subject, asking if this is his first love. He can gather the warriors to give advice. Schneidel thinks for a moment and says, "But doesn't everyone lack experience? It seems like not a single one has any." Schneidel pauses and asks back, "Did I get it wrong?" Ainu is utterly defeated, but still has to tell him he's right. After coming out, Ludek asks what they talked about. He thinks to himself, how am I supposed to tell Ludek about this? So he diverts the topic and asks Ludek what the princess asked him to do. Ludek hastily covers up, saying there's nothing. Both realize that the other is in the same situation. They really want to get off work soon. Soon, the day of the festival arrives. Gragnov stands alone on the city wall, gazing at the stars in the sky and thinking. He once heard that stars are the souls of the dead, and shooting stars represent the dead returning to the mortal world. He thinks perhaps it's because shooting stars are considered good omens that people say this. It wasn't until he met his wife that his understanding of stars completely changed. When he first saw her, with her small body and fluffy platinum hair, she truly looked like a star fallen from the sky. In his eyes, his wife was small and radiant, like a star. Every time he saw her like this, he was terrified she would soon return to the heavens. Now, thinking about it, how ridiculous. He had never felt such fear, not even when facing a great bear. What should he do with these feelings for his wife? His wife back then, touching her pregnant belly, laughed and said no one would believe he was afraid of anything. And she wasn't there to bring him fear, but happiness. Though, thinking about it carefully, she was a little happy. She was his only fear. Gragnaft continues reminiscing. Back then, as long as his wife was happy, he was happy too. He asks the stars in the sky softly, if she is still his only fear now, would she still be happy? Just then, Yuna approaches from behind and calls to him. "Oh, Lord Gragnaft, you're here alone. I heard Lady Vitam has arrived. Have you greeted her yet?" Hearing this, Gragnaft looks at her and thinks. When the heir said Yuna was like spring sunshine, he initially mocked him to his face. But now he seems to understand what Schneidel meant. However, can she really melt Bitburg's coldness like spring sunshine? Yuna then mentions that everyone must set aside their duties during the festival, and she's curious about his plans. Gragnaft doesn't understand what setting aside duties has to do with greetings. Yuna explains that after setting aside duties, they're just siblings, and the younger brothers should greet first. Hermir thinks to himself, someone actually dares to speak to Gragnaft like this. Yuna turns and asks Hermir if he's greeted Herben yet. Hermir feels a bit embarrassed, saying his relationship with Herben isn't that good. Yuna interjects, saying but Herben asked her for all the drawings she made of him. Hermir immediately flares up in anger, asking where Herben is. Gragnaft watches their interaction. He walks over, pats Yuna on the shoulder, and asks her to lead the way. Yuna immediately responds happily, yes! Along the way, Yuna asks Gragnaft if the festival ceremony is conducted by the High Priestess. Gragnaft says no, explaining that today all people of Bitburg can set aside their duties and simply be glass. He explains that today everyone can focus entirely on prayer prayer, himself and the High Priestess included, and the one who conveys everyone's prayers to the Supreme Deity is the High Priestess. At this moment, Vitim sees Grangnav and asks with a mocking tone, "Who's this?" "Oh, it's my foolish brother Grangnav." Grangnav responds defiantly, "Ignorant sister, long time no see." Vitim snorts lightly, saying she came to see the new bride. She warns Grangnav that if he dares let the new bride suffer even a bit, she'll pluck out all his beard. Grangnav retorts, saying the temple hasn't approved yet, so how can she call Yuna new bride? Hearing this, Vitim excitedly retorts, saying he himself went through that ordeal, yet still mentions that damned approval. Yuna quickly grasps her hand to smooth things over, calling out Aunt. She says it's rare to meet, so don't be angry. Life is too short to spend it on anything but smiling. Seeing this, Urban thinks to himself, fortunately the princess is here, or else these two would quarrel even more fiercely. After all, no matter how much they set aside their duties, if Lady Vitim commits violence against Grangnav, she'll still be punished. Grangnav sighs helplessly, calming his agitated emotions. He turns to the other side and sees the heir's warriors. He thinks, if the warriors are here, that means Schneidel is nearby. So when will the ceremony start? Just then, High Priestess Brito steps forward to greet them. Long time no see, Lord Grangnav. Brito tells everyone that the festival ceremony is about to begin. Then she turns to Yuna and says, "You, leave," Yuna asks in surprise. "You want me to leave?" Brito explains that she's an outsider, not glass, and shouldn't remain at the ceremony site. She adds that if such an important ceremony is tainted with impurities, the gods will naturally be angry. She finally emphasizes, telling Yuna to leave immediately. Hearing this, Vitim angrily strikes the ground. She demands, "Who's an impurity? Yuna is about to become the heir's consort. How dare you be so rude?" Brito retorts that it's not a cripple's place to shout here. Someone who can't take care of herself should feel ashamed. Yuna is deeply shocked by the High Priestess's words, not expecting such rudeness. She thinks to herself that when she first met the High Priestess, she sensed she wasn't simple, but didn't know she'd be this rigid. Grangnav speaks up to stop the argument, telling both sides not to continue. Brito continues asking when this outsider will leave, saying the ceremony still hasn't begun because of her. Vitim angrily confronts Brito, dissatisfied that she's twisting the truth and daring to blame Yuna. Schneidel appears at this moment, breaking the tense standoff. Seeing Schneidel arrive, Brito immediately steps forward, saying he's come at just the right time. She continues saying it's because Yuna insists on not leaving that the ceremony has been delayed. Hearing this, people around begin whispering, and the scene gradually becomes chaotic. Yuna worries privately that if this matter escalates, it will surely make things harder for Schneidel later. Though she has words of defense, she's also aware she's an unapproved fiancé, so she compromises and agrees to leave, saying the ceremony is important, and she'll exit quickly. Yuna continues asking if leaving means not staying with everyone. Of course, Brito gives an affirmative answer, so Yuna points to the distant watchtower, saying she'll stay there then. The High Priestess glares at Yuna, asking if she insists on watching the ceremony. Yuna says she'll take the required exam, and will surely pass and obtain marriage approval, so she emphasizes that this ceremony is required learning content. After Yuna reaches the watchtower, she thinks that although she spoke so confidently just now, this place is way too high. Having come this far, Yuna encourages herself, even if it's just for pride, she must persist in watching the ceremony. Then she observes, the altar is far from the glass people. There seem to be offerings to the gods on the altar. She's puzzling over the purpose of the empty space in the middle when she suddenly notices the person there is Tiffany. She walks up to the offerings, gripping the sword on the offerings with one hand. Then she forcefully draws the sword, her movement decisive and even elegant. Yuna finally has a sudden realization. So the core of the ceremony is the priestess's sword dance. Just as she's marveling, her eyes meet with Tiffany, who's performing the sword dance. What's with this accelerating heartbeat? So beautiful. This is truly a scene worth treasuring for a lifetime, Yuna thinks. Then she frantically waves vigorously at Tiffany below, greeting her. Seeing this, Tiffany smiles at Yuna in response. The festival ceremony ends. Yuna thinks this opening ceremony was simpler than expected. Well, since it's over, she can go down now. However, upon seeing the very long ladder, she immediately feels timid and doesn't dare approach, so she shouts loudly to Angelina and Oscar below. She tells them the ladder is shaking too much and she simply can't get down. The two ask in surprise, "Weren't you able to go up just now, princess?" Yuna explains that she was angry just now and didn't notice the ladder's condition at all. Then she begins consoling herself. The ladder may shake, but it won't break immediately. The ladder suddenly makes a creaking sound. Yuna immediately tenses up. At this moment, someone approaches and comforts Yuna, saying not to worry. The ladder isn't sturdy but is maintained daily. Yuna hears a familiar voice. She discovers it's Schneidel. She hears him say she can come down without worry. With him there's no need to be afraid. Yuna is surprised why Schneidel is here, asking if the ceremony has ended. Schneidel answers that he came specifically to find her. Right now, nothing is more important than her. He promises that if she falls, he will definitely catch her. So please trust him and come down the ladder without worry. Yuna is instantly attracted to such a reliable Schneidel. She's always liked him, but why is her heart especially moved today? She hears Schneidel continue to assure her, while she's here, he absolutely won't let her get hurt. He will do everything in his power to protect her. Yuna later recalls that in her life, romance has always had a specific form. She feels that romance should be faithful faithful to feelings in the present moment, free and unbound. So if the other person acts too serious, she feels somewhat troubled. Therefore, the idea she's always held is to be faithful to this moment's feelings until... At this moment, Schneidel calls her name, and Yuna finally snaps back to reality. In the reception room, Schneidel asks Yuna if she's listening to him. Yuna quickly apologizes, saying she was thinking about something else and didn't hear clearly. Schneidel explains, these are basic items distributed to Great Hunt participants, and there's a map. Yuna takes the map and examines it carefully. Schneidel silently watches her from the side. He recalls in his mind the scene of catching Yuna at the watchtower that evening. He expressed his true feelings as much as possible then. He had long made up his mind. He will do his utmost to protect Yuna and not let her suffer again. At first, he thought Yuna fled from his embrace because she was too surprised, but since that day, Yuna has been deliberately avoiding him for several days. Now, with great difficulty, using the Great Hunt as an excuse, he's finally able to meet with Yuna. He wonders privately if his feelings have become a burden to Yuna. So, after hesitating, he asks if what he said last time made her unhappy. Yuna asks in confusion, "What did you say?" Completely not recalling the previous matter. Schneidel reminds her that he said, "While you're here, you won't get hurt." Yuna speculates in her mind. Is Schneidel afraid she's unhappy hearing while you're here? After Yuna reacts, she says, "That," before she finishes. She hears Schneidel hastily explain that it's not because she'll be sent away that he wants to protect her. As he speaks, Schneidel takes Yuna's hand. He emphasizes that it's because he doesn't want her to be sent away that he wants to protect her. Hearing this, Yuna's heart once again flutters uncontrollably. So she shouts, "I'm sorry, Schneidel!" and then flees in embarrassment, leaving Schneidel alone in place. He thinks in confusion, did I do something wrong? Diraz clearly advised him to honestly express his inner feelings. But on second thought, although Diraz has been in love, the ending doesn't seem particularly happy. It seems he made a mistake. He shouldn't have completely followed his father's advice. Just as he plans to consult Aunt Vidim, Ulan walks over and says, "Heir, the divine priestess is here." Tiffany approaches and says, "It seems you're doing something very important." Schneidel asks with an unpleasant expression what she wants. Tiffany clasps her hands and explains that the high priestess seems very angry, so she came to ask him about the situation. The high priestess also said that with such an important ceremony, she's worried the gods will be angry. Schneidel snorts lightly, saying if the gods are truly angry, it's because of the high priestess. Tiffany asks, what exactly happened that day? Schneidel thinks to himself that although he really doesn't want to answer her question, he's worried she'll go ask Yuna. He hasn't even had a proper chat with Yuna. He absolutely can't let them meet alone. After hesitating, Schneidel speaks, saying before the ceremony began, the high priestess said the princess was an outsider and told her to leave the ceremony site. So the princess then climbed up the watchtower to observe the ceremony. Tiffany has a sudden realization. So when she saw the princess on the watchtower, it was because she'd been driven out. Schneidel stands up and continues, saying if the gods are truly angry, it's also because of the high priestess. The one who should be angry is him. Tiffany says nothing more. After thanking Schneidel, she leaves directly. Inside the temple, Tiffany looks at the sword in her hand and thinks, this sword used in the ceremony is called the god-slaying sword before the supreme deity arrives. This sword is used in purification rituals to drive away lesser deities. The path carved by the sword forms the way for the deity to reach the altar. It's a ritual to summon the supreme god. So she performs the sword dance with an earnest and fervent wish for the great hunt to succeed perfectly, for the warriors to return safely, and also for the outsider who may have been sent by the gods. She doesn't ask for too much. She only wishes for the princess to return safely from the great hunt. If the gods can hear, please protect this nation's last hope. A few days later at the training grounds, Yulin steps forward first to inform Yuna that the heir has gone out. Yuna is quite surprised, saying it's festival time. Shouldn't he be resting? Ulan explains that because the great hunt is tomorrow, the heir is preparing for it. Yuna suppresses her surprise and asks specifically where Schneidel is now. Ainu on the side answers that the heir should be at the stables. To prepare for the great hunt, the heir is inspecting the related animals. Upon learning this, Yuna feels utterly dejected and leaves the training grounds with a discouraged mood. She leans against the wall in regret. Just because she fled in embarrassment, even the date on the last day of the festival is gone. She had planned to walk arm in arm with Schneidel on the festival street for their date. She had even planned to have some intimate contact with Schneidel. Seeing Yuna's dejection, Ainu steps forward to comfort her, saying the heir might come here. She should wait a bit. Yuna responds hesitantly, but her gaze is drawn to the commotion not far away. She curiously asks Ainu what Ram and Tugal are doing. Ainu explains that Ram and Tugal are making a bet. They're taking this little one hunting tomorrow, and both are arguing to name it after the other. They agreed that whoever the little one goes to gets to name it. Yuna becomes even more curious after hearing this, her eyes fixed on the little creature. At this moment, someone gently releases it. Tugal and Ram keep calling to it, trying to get the little one to come over. After being released, the little one starts running. It even jumps up, appearing very lively. Ram excitedly shouts, "That's it, Tugal, come here!" with arms spread open, waiting, but the little one passes him by. It finally stops at Yuna's feet, looking up at her. Yuna is extremely surprised, completely not expecting this. Ram and Tugal are also stunned, looking at the scene before them in disbelief. Yuna can't help but crouch down, looking at the little one and exclaiming how cute it is. Seeing this, Ulan steps forward and picks up the little one, reminding Yuna that although it's small, it's fierce. She should be careful. Yuna asks curiously, what animal is this exactly? Ulan answers that it's an animal called a jeb, usually brought along during hunts. Tomorrow is this jeb's first hunt. It recently became an adult and has abundant energy. Yuna stands up and asks why this jeb specifically ran toward her. Ulan admits he's not quite sure either. At this moment, Radak walks over and explains, perhaps the jeb mistook the princess's current shoes for its den. Yuna says jokingly, could it be she has a superpower that makes animals follow her? Radak laughs after hearing this. How could that be? It's just because you have big feet. Yuna immediately retorts, is this petty warrior jealous because the jeb won't run to you? Radak is furious, telling her not to call him by such a strange title. Yuna helplessly indicates she'd like to change how she addresses him, but they're still not familiar. Radak continues to lose his cool, insisting that even without shoes, the jeb would come to him. Yuna questions this, saying in her view, the emotional distance between Radak and the jeb is also very far. Ram adds salt to the wound from the side, saying Radak actually doesn't know how to tame animals at all. Radak snaps in embarrassment and anger, shouting at Ram, shut up! Tugel claps and steps in to mediate, saying facts speak louder than words. Let's confirm right now whose side the jeb will go to. Radak says reluctantly, why should I do something so childish? Seeing this, Yuna says if he's unwilling, he can give up. Radak immediately refuses to back down, saying as one of the heir's 5 warriors, he won't fear this. Yuna provokes him, saying if he talks big and then loses, it'll be very embarrassing. Radak angrily concedes, I accept this bet. However, if I win, Princess, please stop forcing me to become close to you. Yuna agrees to this condition. Then she says if she wins, the jeb's name will be Laddie, named after Radak. Hearing this, Tugel laughs and calls out, Laddie, come here. Radak hastily stops him. It hasn't even started yet, don't call it that. Yuna continues to provoke, saying if he's unwilling, it's not too late to give up now. Radak snaps back, warriors of Bitburg don't flee from battle. Let's start this bet right now. On the other side at the stables, Schneidel thinks while inspecting the animals, I'm afraid I won't see Yuna today. He's troubled that whenever he speaks, Yuna runs away. Now he doesn't even know how to start a conversation. He suspects whether he said something he shouldn't have, becoming a burden to her. At this moment, someone suddenly says the outsider princess suddenly went to the training grounds and is making a bet with Radak. Hearing that Yuna came to the training grounds, Schneidel immediately runs to the training grounds, speculating she might be there to see him. When he arrives at the training grounds, he sees everyone gathered around Yuna, with Radak sitting dejectedly to the side. Radak looks utterly dejected, clearly having lost the earlier bet. Yuna, on the other hand, looks delighted, her spirits very high. And there's a jeb lying on Yuna's skirt, yawning contentedly. Schneidel looks at the scene before him, completely puzzled about what's happening. Yuna is the first to see Schneidel, her face showing delighted surprise. Schneidel walks forward and asks what they're doing. Yuna excitedly says he's come at just the right time. She has something to show him. Then she has Schneidel greet this animal called Laddie. Schneidel recognizes it as a jeb, and is puzzled by the new name Laddie. Yuna explains with a smile that this is the new name given to it, taken from Radak's name. Super cute, right? She regrets that if he'd come earlier, he could have seen her gallant manner calling Laddie. Schneidel looks at the jeb lying on Yuna's feet, worried the top of her feet will go numb. Ram also laughingly mentions that Radak's expression when Laddie ran toward Yuna was truly priceless. However, Schneidel interrupts everyone's conversation, asking if everyone is confident they can each catch a bear tomorrow. Hearing this, Ulan quickly steps forward to pick up the jeb, apologizing to Schneidel and saying he'll remove it immediately. Then Yuna proactively asks Schneidel if he came to the stables to inspect work. She tells him not to worry about her and focus on his work. Hearing this, Schneidel denies in his mind that he came for work. He has a different purpose. He struggles, thinking if he says he ran over because he heard Yuna was here, will she run away again? So he says his work is finished and brings up their previous agreement. About the belt matter they discussed that time. Upon hearing the word belt, all 5 warriors show shocked expressions. Yuna is even more shocked, completely frozen in place. The training grounds immediately erupt in commotion. Yuna frantically asks herself, did I hear that wrong? She can't believe Schneidel's dignified and restrained face would say the word belt. Radak asks in disbelief, is the heir talking about a belt? Anu responds uncertainly, it seems he did. Radak looks utterly deflated, curious about what happened during this time. How did the heir and princess develop to the intimate stage of tying belts? Schneidel mentions that today is the last day of the festival. He thought Yuna would wear festival clothes and reminds her of their agreement to tie the belt. Yuna reacts and hastily says of course she remembers the agreement. She'll definitely wear festival clothes. She explains she didn't wear them because she was afraid Schneidel was too busy and didn't want to trouble him. Schneidel says with a smile that he's fine and suggests going to change into festival clothes now. So Yuna follows Schneidel. She breathes a sigh of relief, privately grateful they almost had a big misunderstanding. But then she thinks it would be fine to have intimate physical contact, and looks forward to further developments today. Schneidel turns to the warriors, telling everyone to tidy up the grounds and then rest. Then he suddenly remembers something and calls out to Ulan alone, saying he must be very happy, right? Ulan looks puzzled, not understanding why Schneidel would say this. Schneidel continues, after all, someone said his muscles are very well developed. Ulan still looks confused. Then he reacts, could the heir be talking about that well-developed muscles thing from before? Radak hastily steps forward to explain, heir, you've misunderstood, it's not what you think. Along the way, Yuna stares at Schneidel, her heart fluttering wildly, finally going to have intimate contact with Schneidel. She suppresses her excitement and asks where they're going. Hearing to your room, she's instantly thrilled beyond words. her mind already wildly imagining scenes. Schneidel shyly explains he's afraid doing this without considering the occasion would make her uncomfortable. But Yuna is already overjoyed. She shouts in her mind, "It's happening! Finally happening! My love for Schneidel is bearing fruit!" Yuna recalls the loneliness of this period. All her efforts are finally paying off. Then she grasps Schneidel's hand tightly and urges impatiently, "Then let's hurry and tie the belt of love now." However, upon returning to the room, Yuna is instantly speechless. Schneidel notices her strange reaction and considerately asks if the belt is tied too tight or uncomfortable. Yuna pretends to be calm, saying no, then can't help but ask if it's really over like this. Hearing this, Schneidel thinks she's dissatisfied with the bow style. Yuna quickly emphasizes the bow is very beautiful. Angelina calls Yuna out. What she wants is untying the belt, not tying it. Yuna hastily covers her mouth. Yuna urgently tells Angelina to keep it down, afraid of sounding like a pervert. But Angelina deals the finishing blow. "You already do." Then Yuna quickly changes the subject, opening the door and saying, "Let's go see the festival now." Schneidel nods in agreement. Several people walk together to the corridor. The atmosphere is still somewhat awkward. Yuna feels both ashamed and embarrassed, keeping her head down and not daring to look at people around her. Schneidel is behind her, unclear about the situation. Ainu hesitates for a long time and finally quietly reminds Schneidel that the phrase tying the belt is easily misunderstood. Schneidel looks puzzled, waiting for Ainu to explain further. Ainu quickly explains with a red face that the heir certainly had no other intentions, but belt has too many meanings and is easily misinterpreted. He adds that belt is a very personal, intimate term. The princess probably misunderstood, and that's why she panicked. Schneidel looks toward Yuna upon hearing this, repeatedly pondering personal, intimate term. He suddenly realizes and his face instantly flushes. Seeing Schneidel embarrassed, Ainu quickly reassures him not to panic. The princess will surely understand his intentions. Schneidel covers his face and protests he had no impure intentions. He just followed Aunt Vitim's advice. Aunt told him to remember daily promises and do things for the other person to convey his feelings. So he remembered his promise with Yuna to tie her belt. He only wanted to fulfill his promise, not frighten Yuna or make her sad. At this moment, Yuna turns back and sees Schneidel still standing in place. She asks in confusion why he's not walking. What's he doing standing here? Did he remember some urgent work to handle? Schneidel doesn't answer but apologizes guiltily, saying he caused her to misunderstand. Yuna looks puzzled. Schneidel explains that tying her belt had absolutely no special intentions. She shouldn't worry, he absolutely won't casually touch her body. Yuna hears absolutely won't touch her body and instantly bristles. She grabs him and repeatedly asks, "What exactly does he mean by that?" Schneidel blushes to his ears and stammers that this is his first time in love, and he has no experience. His expression is clumsy. He emphasizes he simply wanted to tie the belt, had no other ill intentions, and didn't want to make her sad. Yuna reacts to this and can't help but burst out laughing. Yuna says with a laugh, thanking him for his concern. She truly marvels every day that such a handsome person will become her fiancé, so he doesn't need to worry about her being sad, because no matter what he does, she won't mind. Yuna suddenly changes the topic, saying purely out of curiosity, she asks if premarital purity is a legal requirement. Ainu's face turns red instantly upon hearing this, while Angelina stands to the side looking exasperated. Ainu can't help but shout loudly, asking how Yuna could ask the heir such an intimate question. Yuna hastily defends herself, saying she's just curious, while Schneidel has long been petrified in place. Ainu quickly answers with a red face, saying although there's no written rule, the heir's self-control is stronger than anyone's. Yuna repeats in shock. Self-control. She pounds the wall and sighs inwardly. How is Schneidel even strong in this ability? She looks at Schneidel and asks if not touching her is his choice. Does she not have to be like this? Schneidel nods, saying yes, she doesn't need to restrain herself like he does. Hearing this, Ainu thinks sarcastically to himself. Is she blatantly asking for permission to touch the heir? Here, Yuna receives an affirmative answer. She suddenly reaches out and wraps her arms around Schneidel's arm, the movement swift and decisive. She leans close to him and says coquettishly that they're lovers. This kind of contact is normal, right? Then she asks softly if Schneidel minds. Schneidel looks at Yuna and can't help but smile. He says he also thinks this is very good.